Hey, welcome everybody to another episode of Mac Yak, number 93. Let me look, make sure I'm on the right one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can everyone hear us?
Testing
Yes.
sound.
First off, make sure we can hear everybody.
Everyone
Yeah,
say something.
Hello.
Say something.
Testing 1, 2, 3.
Come on, somebody give us a okay, there we
Sounds
go.
good
Scarlett
so
says
far.
we're good. All right. So we're good. All right, guys. So this is episode number 93. We're getting close to that 100, but we're also even closer to 1,000 subs. What are we at now? Because it was 985.
985.
Oh,
980. I see 989 when I refresh.
okay. So 11 more to go.
Quick,
Yep,
everyone
there we go.
subscribe.
Okay, 989.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
anyone in the
click
chat,
subscribe
if you haven't
now.
subscribed, subscribe now.
Yeah. Otherwise,
Yeah,
we're
right.
gonna, as Jay said, we're gonna kick you out because we need those 11 subs. Oh. So maybe we'll hit that 1,000 tonight while we're live. That would be awesome if we could do that.
That would.
Are we doing
Yeah.
the giveaway on the spot? Like if we hit 1,000?
No.
Right away?
No, because I have to go and do that one. I got to go back and look at our page there and do the giveaway. We might just give everybody like a week to get their entries in.
A
So
week.
after we hit,
They've had months.
well, no. I'm talking about all the new subscribers that are just coming in. You know?
Yeah, okay, I guess.
Yeah.
By the way, if I can interject here real quick, I think this is the first time we've ever had 9 people on the stream.
Nope. We've
We
had
can
more.
officially do the Brady Punch thing.
No, we did the 1 year episode. We had a bunch of people, right?
Yes.
Does that mean Sean is Alice?
Oh, I'm in the middle.
When I did the background, Jay, I sent it to Jay, and Jay was like, "Hey, can we put Sean in the middle?" And I said, "Like Alice and Brady Bunch," and he goes, "Who?"
Hey, I'm actually Greg.
Well, if nothing else, we could do
So-
Hollywood Squares.
Yeah, there we go.
There you go.
All right,
Can I
guys.
just
So
say this is my favorite background so far?
Dana
Oh,
put a lot of time in that, actually.
It looks awesome.
Yeah,
like it.
I'm a
Yeah,
fan.
don't get used to it.
yeah.
It makes me really want to see OS 9 in 1080p now.
No, dude.
Yeah.
The Alpha channel on the Mac Yak logo is not representative of what OS 9 would be able to display.
All right, tell me
Shut up,
Steve,
nerd.
All right, guys. As you can see, we are actually doing a sort of a retro show tonight, but we're going to get to that in a little bit later. But anyways, first off, we got some news and stuff. So we've already talked about our subscribers. We need 11 more till we hit 1,000. So let's go ahead and get those subs in there, and then we'll do that MacBook giveaway about a week after that. I may do a live, or we may do it next week on the next show. Maybe do it live on the show.
Yeah, could do that.
Who knows? We'll do something like
Do it
that.
live.
Yeah. All right, Rocky.
Who's
go
for
ahead.
anyone that may not be familiar? I'd highly doubt it. But who is this guy in the middle? Who is that?
Oh,
Bob?
that would be
That's
Sean from Action Retro.
It's Alice.
He's been here before, hasn't he?
Yes, he has.
Yeah.
Before he was famous.
Before
Before he was
I
famous.
think he was already famous back then.
Yeah.
Yeah, but Sean, good to see you back.
Hey,
Thanks
thank
for
you
hanging
very
out.
much. It's good to be here again. Wow. Such a full crowd. I feel very honored to be in such esteemed company with all of you.
And he has officially surpassed all of our channels and subscribers now. Congratulations, Sean.
That's
Crazy.
done.
Thank you.
Unless you combine it.
So we just need the
pretty
love
soon,
of
even if you
yours
combine 'em.
to come over here.
Not jealous at all.
There you are.
RGB and G4 cubes. What can I say?
Apparently.
We'll talk about that offline. Some more.
Yeah. All right, let's move on to some more news here. Rocky, you have a special announcement you want to make.
Yes. So I'm actually going to retire from Mac Yak. Tonight is my last night being a host on the show. I had sat down and had to really kind of think about it. And with the direction of the show and everything else, I went ahead and made the choice that I want to invest my time into a new project that is spinning up for the Island of Misfits and go ahead and move on forward with that. and go ahead and step down from Mac Yak. So I'm retiring from the show. Now, I still will contribute to the 1,000 giveaway. I may even be on the show that night that we do the giveaway. And so I don't fear anybody. That's still going to happen. And I will probably be on at least once or twice as a guest as well. So
Yeah, Rocky's naive enough to think we'll let him go. That's the problem.
Exactly.
I'm sure we'll have you back on a guest. And just put on a fake mustache and you're Rocky. You know, you're somebody else.
Yeah, okay.
Well, you picked a heck of a show to go out on because we're all here. So
Yeah. We actually have everybody here. Grudy's actually here.
And Grudy's here twice.
Yeah. So, I mean, Mike has been here more than you two guys. So.
That's scary.
Yeah. That is scary.
I haven't
I don't know. I think Mike heard retro, and he said, "I'm on."
No, I got called into it. I actually wasn't going to come in, and Steve blew up my iChat, begging me, "You got to be there. We're doing retro stuff. I need you to make me look good." The yada yada yada. All right, fine.
That sounds plausible.
I sent money to
Sounds
him.
very plausible.
Yep.
So now,
all right, well, Rocky, it's
my wife to be here with you guys.
It's going to be sad to see you leave us, but hopefully you do some good things with your new project there.
Yeah, best of luck.
Yeah, I'd
with
like
you
to
on
hear
that.
more
Good luck.
about that.
Yep.
Better
All right,
be
guys.
24/7 so you can watch it.
All right, the last little bit of news is check out the Mac of the Month poll on appleserialnumberinfo.com. What's winning right now, Jay?
It's the Macintosh
What is
TV, isn't it?
Huh?
Macintosh TV, I believe.
Is winning?
Really?
Yeah, it
that's
surprised me.
It's the worst one.
Take your 8 megabyte RAM limit and shove it.
I voted for the MacBook Pro, but you know.
I'll be honest, I didn't
It's
even
winning
vote for
by
that
a
one.
good margin too.
Well, that's probably because it's just, it's just different. That's the reason why people are voting for
I
it.
think it's because it's black.
Wow.
Yeah, we should have a poll of like the black MacBook, the Macintosh TV, the the Director's Edition Performer, or LT,
5200.
whatever it is. Yeah, and then like an iMac Pro and see which one wins.
Yeah.
What a Vader Apple II.
Yes,
Yeah, I was just going to say the Bell
not a
Now
Mac.
Apple II.
Yeah,
Perfect.
Yeah,
I'll give my vote.
that wasn't really black.
I'd vote for that too.
I remember seeing one in person, and I took a picture of it, and I didn't buy it.
Ah.
Yeah, I've seen a few in person.
At
but-
least you got the picture.
Yes,
What about
and
a
the price
next-
tag haunts me.
What about a
Yeah.
next?
Oh, what was the price tag?
It was like probably like $70.
What?
Oh,
It was back in like 2004 or something like that.
even
Yeah.
then, that was actually pretty cheap for one.
Yep. You know, never mind.
All right, guys. So let's go ahead and move on to our. We only have 2 topics tonight, guys. So
It's
the
gonna
first
be a
one's going to
20-minute
be
show, and then we're done.
a real quick one. First topic tonight is we're going to just do a quick recap of the Apple event that they had Tuesday, where they had released 2 new products. Pretty much, that's it.
Well,
They
I
were-
don't want to downplay the 6-hour stream that Ken and Steve did. But for me, it was a snooze fest.
It was pretty much. To be honest with you, the only thing that kind of piqued my interest a little bit, and if it works well with my new home that I'm building, is the HomePod Mini.
You mean
But-
the softball size?
Yeah, I mean it's $99, man. Come on, it's about third the price of the HomePod and does
Inglorious
way more.
mono.
You
Yeah, I
know,
was
so-
still sleeping when that part was on. I tuned in around halfway through.
Oh, at least you were
I-
there. I just fast forwarded through that one.
I was so busy Tuesday, I totally forgot it was even happening, and I didn't even learn anything happened until yesterday. Yeah.
Well,
Busy dude.
they have those things on at 3 a.m. here, so I generally don't see the actual events themselves. But I did watch Ken and Steve talk about it afterwards, and I think I found out everything I needed to know from that.
That was a good stream.
I mean,
Well, yeah,
I enjoyed
I Was very exhausted at the end of it. We'll just say that.
It was a long stream, dude.
It was much more exciting than the event itself.
Yeah, I would agree
Pretty
with
much.
you.
We'll do that.
And it just
So-
dragged on. Well, drag on is the wrong word. It just went on.
I think they went longer than the
So
actual
I'm sitting
event.
here and I'm watching
Yeah,
it on my
it-
computer. And I'm like, dude, I gotta go. So I
It was
put it on
almost
my
4
phone,
hours.
Go to
It
the
was
garage
almost-
to clean there. Still going. Like, I need to head into the basement. The phone was almost out of battery, so I just fired up an Xserve, opened the screen, and put the stream on there. Like, wow. It's
I kept on seeing people come and go from the chat, and they would all come back saying, "You guys still going?"
Yeah.
Well, it was funny because at one point, Ken and I both had to refill our water bottles, and I'm like, after the show, I'm like, we need to work out a system because, we both got up. It was like we both got up to use the bathroom at the same time. It's like, all right, well, no one's gonna be on the stream for a few minutes.
All right.
Everyone, wait there.
Synchronized bathroom break, huh?
Yes. Well, when you're drinking a huge bottle of water, nature will take its course.
That is true.
As he drinks water, he says that.
Yes, I have to. That's why I have Aquafina, my good bottle of water here. So, I mean, the only takes I could get out of it is they came out with a new iPhone. It basically looks like they're going back to the way that the iPhone 5 looked.
Yeah, actually, I have a sneak peek of the new iPhone here.
Here we go.
Oh boy.
Uh-oh.
Who would you steal this from?
Here it is.
Wow! It's got all the G's in it.
The iPhone 12 mini.
They sent me one too.
I'll be honest. I have always loved this design. I mean, I know it had that whole situation with the way you're supposed to hold the phone and all that, but I've always loved the design of this phone. I am actually really pleased that they've gone back to this, and one of the main reasons I like it is because I like a screen protector on my phone. I like to have a screen protector on it, and the newer designs where the screen bends over like that means that whenever you put a screen protector on, it always it doesn't go all the way to the edge, and then you have it sort of coming down the side. Whereas with these, you'll be able to put a screen protector on and not even know it's a screen protector there. So I like that.
This one has a screen
Said that three
protector
of
on
us
it.
had one of these at our desk right now.
Yeah.
Hey, Ken's in the chat.
What is that? The iPhone 4?
Hey, Ken.
Yeah, I've got the 4S.
I have a 3.
The
I have a
12
3G.
mini is the same size as a 5.
No, I think it's more like a 7, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it's a little bit bigger than the 5, but it's not
I think
as.
I think it's like almost the size of the 7. Yeah.
Yeah.
Something like that.
But it has a home button, doesn't it?
Then what makes it a mini?
Because
Because
the others
it's-
are huge.
Because it's
Yeah.
smaller than the others.
Because
Well,
when
just
I
for
had the 6 or the 6S and the SE came out, I immediately went out and bought that. And, that took a while. It got a little old. So then last year I upgraded to the XS because the second SE kind of blows. I don't want it. But the 12 mini, hardware-wise, is a nice phone. So
Yeah,
if it's same size as a 5 or slightly bigger, I might actually consider downgrading to that.
Yeah, I guess the only difference is the price
iPhone
point.
12 mini is about the same size as the 6S Plus. At least the screen is.
Oh, really?
Wow.
The phone physically is going to be a little smaller because
It's
it goes
huge.
edge to edge. But
Yeah, that's not very
the
mini.
screen is
No, that's not mini.
What's,
Yeah.
what's that compared to like this? Is that like the 12 mini? Is that bigger than this?
I'm going to do some measuring.
That's way bigger than that. Yeah.
that's like two of those.
I was hoping it would be like this size. That'd be awesome. I would buy it.
Well, for the first time since the iPhone 6, I think I'm actually considering a new one.
I
Me
am
too.
too.
I'm
I
probably
mean,
still not going to get one because I'm stuck on my 6S Plus, but I'm actually thinking about it. And the prices
actually
are
works.
actually really the prices have really come down.
I honestly
was
don't
it,
have much of a
$3.99?
choice.
$6.99.
For the mini?
Yeah, I'm thinking of going back to iPhone because I'm on Android now. But
What? Oh.
Why did this guy?
But that 11 Pro
Hey, get the hell
price
out of here.
is pretty good.
All right.
Well,
Here, let me push the dump button here.
Yeah, I don't have much of a choice. I need to go to a 12.
Yeah, if you throw your phone around and it breaks, you don't have much of a choice.
Yeah.
Yeah. Try
Yeah.
not to throw a 12.
Grudy's gonna be
Grudy.
the first one on YouTube testing the new ceramic glass.
Yeah, I was gonna say, yeah. Make sure you film yourself as you're throwing it towards the door.
toughest glass. We'll see about that.
Yeah.
Look, I got blood on it.
Okay, so the width of the Mini is the same as the 7, and the height is about 3 millimeters. Not that you guys know what a millimeter is. Smaller.
Yes, we know what
So
millimeters
It's
are.
just a tiny bit smaller than a 7 for the Mini.
Good.
We
I want
call
to-
that a little bit.
Remember
I
these though?
Yeah, that's mini.
This is the old 3G. This is a 3G.
Yeah.
Nice.
That was my
But
first iPhone.
Somebody said what?
That was my first iPhone too.
Yeah, I had the very first iPhone when it first came out.
3GS was my first one.
Trina wants to know why don't
Fuck you.
iPhone users like larger phones? And I
Why is
like
she
something
talking
that'll
about
fit
that?
in my shirt pocket.
Yeah, there you go. I was
I
waiting
do
for
too.
I like to be able to use my thumb all the way on the screen, so
Right.
everywhere on here I could touch it.
Yep.
Yes.
This one,
I mean, I like using.
I
a big
cannot
screen
do
phone,
that. I
but
cannot.
not carrying it.
Yeah, I can't reach every part of the screen with one
I
hand.
always get sick
You
and
need
tired
bigger
of
hands.
being in bed smacking myself in the face because I lost control of phone.
that sounds like a personal
That
problem.
means you
There.
need to go to sleep.
Well, I know this is something that I do. It's not Apple's fault, but I have my phone, and there's also a case around it, so that already makes it bigger. And I want to be able to operate it with one hand, which I can't do. Which Apple damn well knows, because they introduced that swipe thing
Reachability,
to
yeah.
condense the screen. They know people don't
Reachability is what they called
like it.
This
Yeah,
is going to be
reachability.
Rudy in bed with a computer, just to smack him in the face.
it.
I've done that before, honestly.
I was in bed the other night with my iPad and I happened to doze off and it's like, oh,
Yeah.
I have done that with my
Sucks,
iPad
doesn't
before.
it?
I don't know. Would you rather do that with a MacBook Pro or with a Pismo that's all plastic?
Ooh.
Which one?
The plastic is softer.
The MacBook
Yeah.
Pro for
You're
sure.
going to hurt the
This has
computer, though.
a lot of give.
Pismo's will hurt worse.
It's heavy.
I don't know. You want to hurt yourself with a laptop? Try a 540C
The plastic will break before it hits.
with dual batteries.
or a
I
portable.
got one
Since
over here.
since we're going vintage, how about portable?
Oh,
Ooh.
just have the
Might as well
ambulance
just drop a brick on your head.
medic.
All right, guys. So I think that's about it. So we want to keep this pretty short. So let's go ahead and wrap the recap up. So what do we all think about it? Was it
Starfest.
or
I
No
like the
clue.
Mac.
They
I
could have
never
announced it through
caught
an
up
email.
with it.
I'm a
I
big
mean, the
fan of
only
that.
thing I really enjoy
thumb
from
up.
these, what do you call them, events, is the little animations they do flying from building to building and up to
Oh,
the
they
base.
had a ton of fun doing that. I guarantee
know.
it.
but hey, they had the Verizon guy and Tim Cook on the same stage.
What?
Yeah, you missed that part.
Yeah, I was sleeping.
That was 5G projection. He wasn't actually there.
Yeah.
The signal drops and half of him is like flailing.
All right, guys. So
Yeah, I think the phones are neat, but not I'm going to buy anytime soon.
Oh
me
yeah,
either.
Brock's right. They didn't talk anything about Apple Silicon Macs.
Yeah,
Nope.
but didn't
Save that
95 Mac have some info on leaked model numbers or something?
Yep.
I'm willing to bet you that A14 chip Bionic is what's going to be in the first one.
Yeah.
Yep. It's a
That's
big
my
iPhone.
guess.
Yeah.
So, all right, guys. So let's go ahead and get into the retro part of the show, and I'm going to throw this over to Steve. Let you host the rest of this because you're the retro guy.
What? Why me?
Because you got the most retro stuff.
Yeah, well, you,
This
Look
well,
on
this-
this.
175 to be
They're on
exact.
your shirt too.
they're all over my
Oh,
shirt.
he released that shirt.
It is on.
Yeah.
You don't. You're
Dude,
How
not,
did
what-
I miss that?
Grudy,
Nice shirt.
I
I
don't
didn't
know.
order that shirt.
you need to be on the chat more often.
Yeah, I know.
Rudy needs to pay attention. In fact, I'll get a promo code for anybody in the chat for tonight. You get a few dollars off the shirt. How about that? I'd be
I
happy.
almost wore that
$2
same
off.
shirt
I want it
tonight.
free.
You want it free? Well, I can't even get it for free. What are you barking up the wrong tree there, bud.
I didn't even get one for free, and I bought the very first one of his second shirt.
Yeah, before I could paste the promo code into the link, Mike's like, I bought one. I'm like, you're supposed to wait 5 seconds.
Yeah, it only cost me $43.
Well, that's for shipping. All right, so
I wanted it. I was in a hurry. I was excited.
You were very excited. Thank you.
There's
Mike
Ken
is
in the
inspiration
Ken's in the
for
chat.
2020 shirt because
Yeah, we know that, GT. We said that like 5,
Oh.
10 minutes ago.
we're all running on 68K processors. We're a little delayed this evening, so. But anyway, yeah. So today is our retro event. We've all wearing our retro shirts and have our piles of crap on display behind us. So, except Rocky, he's got some cows, but there is some crap in the
Yeah.
Cows are old.
So
He actually looked.
Yeah.
Cows are holding perfectly still.
Oh boy. So yeah, so our show is going to be retro themed, and we're gonna flow from topic to topic. But I guess the first thing that if I have the latest document here, it's the one that's all in red. The first topic here is what we're going to talk about is basically when people ask, about buying a vintage Mac. So let's talk about, let's say, all these posts that we always see on the Facebook groups that we're in. Somebody posts a screenshot or a photo, and they're like, "Should I buy this Mac? I don't know the condition of it. Maybe the guy
Is this a good deal?
Yeah, is this a good deal? What's
Oh,
this worth?" And personally, those posts just drive me up the wall because it's either a guy trolling everybody or it's a guy who's just, just wants to know what he could get for it before he hawks it on eBay.
Like
Well, what do you
someone
guys
we
think?
know.
Yes.
And to interject real quick, we've covered this before, but since the last time we did, there's a lot of new subscribers. Might be new information for some, and these, from what I understand, tend to be the more popular questions and topics on forums and Facebook groups and all that. So since
Yeah.
this is a retro theme show, we figured it's a good idea to cover some of it.
Yep.
Yeah, well, I saw a post just on Facebook recently where someone was showing a Macintosh Color Classic still all wrapped in its plastic.
Yes. from
And
Japan.
yeah, that's right. And talking about, look at this thing here. It's still, still the right color. It's still the platinum and all that sort of thing. What's this going to go for? It's going to be worth so much. And the you kind of can't win with something like that. Okay, if it's going to stay in its plastic, you can't inspect it. If you inspect it, it's not in its plastic anymore. And if you can't inspect it, you don't know what condition it's in inside. It might still be in its plastic, but one thing, I mean, a classic example was when I had someone asking me the value of a particular computer. It was a Macintosh 2 Ci, still in its box, in amazing condition. Case looked absolutely pristine. He said, what's something like this going to be worth? Well, I said, well, now admittedly this wasn't still wrapped in plastic, but it was still incredibly good condition. I said, well, the first thing we have to do is have a look inside it. And sure enough, we took the lid off and it had an exploded battery inside.
Oh.
And I said, with the box and the computer and everything there, I'll give you $50 for it. And I was showing a little bit of pity with that as well. So look, had it all been in perfect condition, it'd be worth a hell of a lot more. But unless you're getting a chance to see inside these things, you're taking a huge risk.
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
What just fell?
Even when you're not spending a lot, like there was a boxed, I think it was a Performa 430 I picked up, whichever one I did the unboxing video of a few years ago, and it was listed I think for $100 or something like that with the box, and I was ready to buy it because I'm like, oh, it's in the box and everything, that might be nice, and I said, well, could you just lift the lid? Because it's one of those little pizza box ones. You could just lift the lid without a screw or anything. And he lifted it up and he took a blurry photo. But even with the blurry photo, you could tell the battery exploded and then the caps in the top left corner were just blooming. So I'm like, okay, yeah, that's a problem. Would you do $40? And he's like, okay. So, it was, for all the accessories and stuff I got and the monitor, it's well worth it. But yeah.
That's probably the reason why he gave you a blurry photo.
Well, no, I don't think he intentionally knew. It looked like all his photos were coming from 2004, so who knows what photo he was using.
I mean,
Well, the focus on most cameras and phones and everything is so quick now. It's actually a challenge to take a blurry photo.
Yeah,
unless you really
unless you like click and you move, move it as you press the button.
I mean,
I think you just always gotta assume the worst when you buy something like that.
Absolutely.
Like unless you can see it, then just assume it's completely destroyed inside. Assume the motherboard's gone and broken. And and pay accordingly. And also think about what you're going to do with the machine. Are you buying it to play with it? Are you buying it to restore it? Or you just want to collect a pretty looking object?
Well, it's pretty. We buy it so we can send it to Steve.
Or Bruce.
Just
Well,
got to factor in the Steve
There's no
cost.
room.
Yeah.
There's no room.
Yeah, I mean, I think we mentioned this on the show, or we might have even mentioned it a couple of times. But there's a really ridiculous thing going on with Macintosh Classics, particularly here in Australia at the moment, where they're just going for obscenely high prices on eBay. And the Classics are one of the computers that suffer really badly from capacitor leakage on both the logic board and analog board, as well as, of course, battery explosions. So unless you have someone selling you this thing that says this thing has been recapped, logic board and analog board, working perfectly, all that sort of thing, and you get to see pictures of it, you have to just factor in that cost of getting those other things done, whether you do them yourself or whether you send them away to get someone else to do it.
Don't pay a lot for it.
No, that's right.
Yeah, I think it's also one of those things of it really depends on you. Obviously, if you have, money burning a hole in your pocket, and even though you don't know the condition of something, and you just want to buy it, and you go out and get it, that's fine. But don't cry foul when you're like, oh, it doesn't work. You have the internet, you have resources to join a Facebook group or watch a video on YouTube where people sort of warn you about how to go across buying older electronics. And it's not just Macs. A lot of old PCs have similar issues, but it's just I just see the posts like nonstop of either somebody just taking a screenshot of a Craigslist thing or just I found this in my attic. What is it worth? And sometimes it's something cool, and other times it's like, yeah, that's a magazine. That's like Macworld magazine from like 2 years ago. It's worth 50 cents.
I see a lot of posts lately about shipping damage. It's really been. I don't know if it's my feed or if it's been a new thing lately, because it's been quiet for a while. But now there's smashed plastic, CRTs that are cracked. You name it. People just. I think there was one in there. I think it was
an iMac.
One of those pizza box Macs.
Yeah.
It had
I saw that one.
in the box a piece of paper around, not even crumpled up paper, had just a piece of paper around it.
Oh my god!
The thing was a jigsaw
That's
puzzle.
fine.
Yeah.
That's all right. I got a laptop once, and they put the charger on top of the screen.
Ooh.
That did not make
Oh.
I got that too.
Oh,
exactly
it was
the
rare
same thing.
too.
That's how I ship mine. Is there a problem?
Just tape the charger.
I must say, Jay knows how to ship pizza box Macs, so he's good. he rolled it up real nice.
We know that there are certain computers of a particular time frame that you just simply should not ship. It doesn't matter how much packing and padding you
Don't
put
even
on the
breathe
thing.
on it.
Like a mold.
Maybe you have the original box with all the styrofoam, you might take the chance. But with a lot of those Macs, you just local pickup only. I mean, you're not. There's no way that's going to get shipped. I mean, I've got an LC580. I mean, just trying to open the case, pieces of plastic fall off it. I mean, how do you think it's going to go with shipping?
Oh god.
Yeah.
I won't ship those.
Yeah, there are some machines you just don't want to ship.
If I can't find it within driving distance, then I won't get it.
Well, that's
unless
the thing.
I really, really want it.
I was lucky. My Molar Mac survived the shipping. It just had a
That's
small
amazing.
little crack in the translucent plastic, but I think that was already there.
Because that stuff's extremely brittle, isn't it? The plastic up top.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah.
Some more than others.
Yeah, and the weight of these things too. I mean, I'm a weird person. I like dot matrix printers, and there's this Image Writer LQ I've been after. That's basically a wide Apple Image Writer, and they're not too common. But whenever I find one, it's like in, let's say, an 8-hour, 10-hour drive away from me, and it's there's no way you could ship that and it would survive. I mean, I contacted the the Apple Rescue of Denver, I think, Colorado or something, wherever it is, and they had one at one point, and they're like, yeah, it might not ship well. I'm like, oh well, if these people admit to it, I'm not going to risk it. It's just one of those things that you have to find it locally, like Dana was saying. That's
So as
that's
much
not
as you like those printers, 10 hours is just a little too far for you.
well, 20 hours both way, without sleeping, or that's not fun.
Well, you
Why
could do
can't
like
you
a
sleep?
relay.
They got motels.
Relay.
He
Yeah,
did
like
try to
who
orchestrate
here?
it
We
with
got a lot of
me
people
when
on
I
right
was.
now. Who here lives closest to Denver? They can just go pick
I
it up.
tried to I
Yeah.
tried to bribe the
I'm
guy.
actually
I
the
tried to
closest
message
to
him.
Denver.
I tried to bribe the guy because Dana was going to pick up something that wasn't too far away, and I think I
Yeah.
scared him off in the email because I'm like, look, here's what's gonna happen. My friend's gonna come meet you. You're gonna give him the thing, and he's gonna. And it was like no response. So it's I'm blocked somewhere.
His name is Spike.
Yeah, he's got one eye. Don't let it scare you. Oh boy. All right. Anything else to add to about these?
I forgot what the
Requests
topic
that-
was.
Yeah, I just
Oh, it was-
I did too.
the buying them. Yeah, just when
That's-
you if you don't have an opportunity to find out exactly what is wrong with it, assume the worst and pay accordingly.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Just be prepared to be burned. So if someone's asking what you consider to be money that's just not worth the risk, just pass on it. There'll be another one later on.
So I need
Yep.
to know, my humble self that knows absolutely nothing about this vintage stuff, I see a really nice Mac posted online. It's just one block over. I'm gonna go get it. How much do I pay? Is there any kind of guide or cheat sheet or reference where
Oh,
I
that'd
can
be
see what
handy.
this might be worth?
Funny
There
you
was
should
a
mention
guy.
that.
That'd be very, very handy.
Yeah. Type faster. Type
Come on,
faster.
hurry
I'm
up.
trying. I'm
Missed
on
the
the
moment.
whippy.
Missed the moment.
So I do have a spreadsheet that is in work in progress, and we have sort of teased it before. But essentially, if you remember the websites like Low End Mac or EveryMac.com, back in the day, they used to periodically update the listings of the retro computers and give you an approximate cost of what it was
Yeah.
worth. And it's funny because some of the prices are still up there, and it's like, no, that's not.
Yeah.
So what I did was, when I went to go pick up I was planning to pick up a G3 all-in-one, and this is how it sort of spawned off. And the guy just wanted way too much for it. It was a waste of time and whatever. I'm driving back. I'm sort of upset, thinking, price guide. That's what we need, a price guide. Not that anyone would follow it or anything, but at least it's something that's out there that could say, look, a bunch of Mac dorks agree these are fair prices for these sorts of things. So I'm gonna paste in the price guide. The price guide work in progress into the chat there. It is a work in progress. Only a few of the pages are actually filled out there. But essentially what there is if you skip past the introduction screen and you go to like the early compact Mac screen, that one's pretty filled out. Or if you go to the Apple input devices screen, basically you get 6 tiers of prices going from like mystery, untested, or damaged, all the way to like it's perfect, it may have the original box, and so on and so forth. What this does not cover is oddball things like prototypes, stuff that's like sealed in the box where it's like, look, use your own discretion, and things like that. But for the majority of things that you're trying to figure out, this price guide would help you, hopefully. And it's not just pulling numbers out of a hat. I mean, obviously, I've been buying this crap for years. I have a good understanding of generally what it goes for. Even I'm surprised at some of the higher prices. My prices tend to be on the lower side, but that's also because there's always risks involved. And look, if I'm somebody who doesn't know anything about these things, I'm going to assume I'm going to look it up on a list. I'm going to say, all right, this guy says the Mac Classic is worth let's go to the guide here because I'm on the wrong page. So let's say I look up a Mac Classic here and it's in unknown condition. There's no chime when it turns on, maybe. $20-$40 I think is a fair estimate for now. Now, somebody could say, well, mine's in beautiful condition, has the box, has the manuals, has this, has that, give you a zip drive or whatever. Obviously, you'd say, all right, well, maybe the price is different. This is not going to be, a one-size-fits-all thing. It's designed as, general advice, general pricing for these items. Obviously, there will be exceptions. But I think that something like this would be very helpful to the community, not just us who are trying to get stuff cheap, but to people who are also trying to sell things. And, you get one poor guy who undervalues something on Facebook when they post it, and he's just flooded with a billion people either yelling at it it's too low or trying to buy it before he realizes he priced it too low. So.
Or the Jonathan Goldman trying to go lower than that.
Yes, and then going to sell it.
And then selling it for 10 times more than he bought it for.
Of
That
course.
doesn't sound like him.
Always keep in mind with all of these computers, always pay attention to whether they're including a keyboard and mouse, because that can have a significant impact on on the value of the thing. In particular, if you're dealing with like a Mac Plus or 128K or 512K, if you don't have the original keyboard and mouse to go with them, it takes a lot off the price, because just trying to get hold of a keyboard and a mouse for those can be quite an expensive exercise. So.
Yep.
Sometimes
And
it costs
that's
like
why-
twice as much.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, and that's why for the 128K, the 512, and the Plus on that list there, I do mention one of the price levels says includes required accessories, and I put down a keyboard and a mouse as the required accessory because it is proprietary. So the item there goes from, let's say, without the keyboard and mouse it's like 100, 125. With the keyboard and mouse it's at least 150 because you have those accessories there. Now one could argue it's worth more, but to each their own. I'm actually, the next step here is, as I fill this out, I'm going to be taking screenshots because unfortunately eBay does not save records of things. Like within 60 days everything's just like wiped off the face of the website. But what I like to do is, I have been doing this periodically, and if anybody has examples, feel free to email me or share it on Discord or whatever. But if you want to, share examples of things that have sold that you think is a fair price for something, or if you think it's an insane price, we have our "What Were We They Smoking" section. But I think that's a good way to share some of that type of stuff.
Well, I pay way too much for everything, so I'm afraid I can't help.
I'm the same. And of course, if anyone wants to translate that price guide into Australian dollars, just take those figures and multiply them by about 3. And that's what we're paying for things out here at the moment.
Oops.
So, yeah, what are you gonna do?
So here's a
Overpriced
good
Macs and spiders. It's time to move.
here's a good case in point, Steve. We have a guy in the chat here. Stefano says, "What's my working PowerBook 150 worth?" Well, the question is it's working now? Has it been recapped? Probably not. It's going to take quite a bit of investment to get that thing working, because I guarantee you, if it's working now and you keep using it, it's not going to work much longer.
How's that hard drive sounding?
Yeah, again, that's the other thing. The hard drive is not going to last. It's going to take a little bit of investment of time and money to get that thing, working like close to new again. So,
I mean, no seller really wants to hear this, but your, I don't know, your $200 LC, whatever, name something vintage.
Yeah.
Still needs, depending on where you go for the work, needs $50 to $100 in recap work, trace repair possibly. It's the value plummets dramatically based on how much work is needed in the future, and nobody wants to hear that, of course.
Right. Everybody thinks I've got this old computer that people are paying all kinds of money for. Well, just because they're paying that on eBay doesn't mean it's worth that. You got people on eBay with more money than they know what to do with, and if that's what you want to do with it, then go ahead. But if you want it to go to somebody who's going to take care of it and restore it and make sure that it lasts another 30 years, you're not going to get eBay money for it.
Exactly.
eBay pricing is not local pricing, too.
Right.
Exactly. You're paying for a global audience, and eBay gets their cut too. I was talking to the guy who was selling me some stuff not too long ago, and I only ended up buying real cheap stuff from him because everything he had like a Lime iBook, but he was looking up prices on eBay and stuff.
You
and
don't
I said,
need one of those.
No, I have one. It's all pretty with the box. He was saying, oh, I could sell this on eBay. I'm like, all right, well, go ahead, because you're going to pay eBay fees, you're going to pay PayPal fees, then you're going to have to ship it, and then maybe the guy will turn around and say, you know what, it's broken, and I want all my money back, or I'm complaining to eBay. And
or it does get broke, and he can't.
Or it does,
prove.
yeah.
If you buy something on eBay, you have a lot more protection than if you buy it from some random guy in his house.
Yeah, the buyer usually wins out on eBay, unfortunately, and I know that because I've been on the other end of that once in a while. But but we are talking. First off, any more comments on the pricing before we jump on to another topic here?
No. Well, I think there's one piece that isn't usually mentioned about pricing that is an important factor to also keep in mind, and this is where people will pay what others consider to be way too much, is if you want it, it's available, and it's worth it to you, you might very well be considered what would be, overpaying, just because it's
Yeah.
worth it to you.
Yeah.
Sure.
And maybe
Yeah,
you've
I've
been
done
looking
that.
for it for a while or something. Or
I've done that when one has come up, and let's just call it my patience is gone. It's something that I want, and you go, I'm going to pay it. I know I'm paying a little bit too much, but I'll have it. So,
Or if it's in just the right condition with just the right accessories, pay a little bit more. That's what I do every time. Find just the right one, pay way too much.
Yeah.
I
That's
have
one
some things to
strategy.
sell you, Sean. Why don't you come over? Bring your wallet.
I'll be there. On my way.
All right. So this leads us into, because we were sort of talking about what to beware of when you're selling some things, and this brings us into our next topic, which is common issues with these old computers. And if those of you who haven't seen it, you probably did, hopefully. Bruce and I provided a lot of information and feedback. We had little cameos on a video that Ken from the Computer Clan did about why computers die, why old computers die. And that's a great video to watch. If you haven't seen that, go look it up. It's an excellent video there. And these are all topics we've covered before to a degree on the show. But Bruce, being the expert of going through and producing these recapping guides and seeing firsthand what this stuff could do. Bruce, you want to talk a little bit about some of the precautionary things and some things to look out for, especially if you're going to pick up a new computer or a new old computer?
Sure, yeah. I mean, obviously and this is something that is discussed really well in the video, and I think I might just post a link to that video in here if
I'll get it for you. Don't worry, you chat.
Okay. So yeah, look, the video does explain it really well. I mean, sort of Ken did a great job of getting all of that information, putting it together into a nice, easy to understand, format. And it's basically, we know that at the end of the day, there are certain components that have a limited lifespan. Obviously, capacitors are one of the main ones. And that's why we end up with obviously recapping. But yeah, there are components that will only run for a certain amount of time. So it's, you can't just assume these things are going to go on forever. And then obviously particular computers have more of a problem with that than others do. I mean, we've talked about this before, but one of the classic ones, of course, is the G5 Imac. Now, I mean, if you've got one of those and it doesn't have leaky caps, you consider yourself incredibly lucky, because that thing has something like 25 capacitors on the motherboard, and chances are most, if not all of them, will be either swollen or leaking. And that's obviously to do with the fact that during that particular time in history, there were a lot of bad capacitors on the market. So it sort of helps to know what problems you might get with particular models. Is that a recapping kit there, is it? Okay.
I was about to say, I haven't opened mine. I haven't touched mine in 2 years. I'm very worried now, Bruce.
So the three things, the three probably main things that, again, talked about in this video. One, of course, is dust, which of course is also moisture, because if you're in an environment where there's a bit of moisture, dust attracts moisture, it sits in the dust, and you get corrosion from that. So like dust and moisture, are a big problem. Capacitors and capacitor leakage are a big problem, and then of course PRAM batteries, are also a problem exploding, because they have a limited lifespan, and when they get to the end of it, they have a tendency to leak and even explode. And I've had boards come to me where it's not just a matter of the battery goo just sort of like coming out where the battery is. There is battery acid it's not acid, it's alkaline, but battery stuff sprayed right across the board. I mean, it has literally gone poof, and it's just sprayed stuff all over the board, and then you just get these little dots of corrosion all over the board. So yeah, I mean, these are the things to really look out for.
As the batteries decompose in some of these systems, they literally are just bombs, and they'll just explode everywhere.
Yep,
that's right.
We've all seen it.
Yeah, so obviously you got to make sure that, if you're going to have anything put away for a while, make sure you remove the battery. And of course, if you're buying anything, that's, we were saying this in sort of, before. I mean, you need to be able to see that, or you have to, if you're buying a computer that's not working, you have to assume that battery is gone. I just keep hearing people contacting me and saying, "Oh, I just bought this, and and the battery's gone inside it. Is there anything you can do?" And in some instances there are, and in other instances there aren't. So, sometimes they're so badly corroded that it's not worth it. You could spend hours and hours and hours on it, and of course, if you're getting me to spend hours and hours and hours on it, means you're going to be paying for my time. And then at the end of that, there could be corrosion in an area where like where it might be in an in-between layer of the board. I mean, the boards have got layers of circuitry sandwiched together, and the corrosion can be in one of the middle layers. And unless you have a schematic diagram to show you exactly where everything is meant to go, it's a guessing game as to where that electricity was meant to go. So, yeah. I think I've said enough of this, haven't I?
Well, and you also got to remember, Bruce, that Apple's pretty, stingy when it comes to giving out, schematics.
Yeah. Well, I don't think they've ever done it voluntarily, have they?
No.
Never.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there are some schematics around for some of the really early Macs that were actually, hand illustrated by a company called Beaumark, and they are a little inaccurate in places, but they can sometimes get you out of a pickle. And then there are one or two, I think, of the vintage Macs where there are maybe two or three, actually, where there are vintage Macs that are actually genuine Apple schematics floating around. I don't know how people got hold of them, but they did. But yeah, on the whole, there's a whole stack of Macs where there's no schematic that I'm aware of that's available to the general public. And so, unless it is something that you can see, or that you can measure, observe, you could be stuffed. I mean, you compare it to working on a modern Mac where, a lot of these schematics have become available, and you can really do nice sort of, steps in diagnosis and stuff like that. I mean, you don't have that option without a schematic on those older Macs.
Yeah, and one of the other things is also, you could have a computer that actually seems to function, but unknown to you, the capacitors are leaking, or unknown to you, a trace is, shorting out or something, because there's a lot of components on that board. And if you're not testing all of it, the machine could work fine. And then you go to print or use a modem or something like that, or connect a keyboard or a mouse into a different port or something, and that doesn't work. And that, it could be the capacitor or the component that regulates that electricity or something has failed. I mean, Sean picked up a Macintosh SE, that cursed computer. that it did work, but the board was in pretty rough shape in some areas. It was able to be saved, of course, but the machine did work. There was nothing that didn't work about it, right, Sean?
Yeah, the machine worked fine, and it was just a little bit cursed. And
a little bit.
I don't think there was anything on the board that didn't work, but when you looked at the board, you could see stuff was starting to leak.
Does that mean Steve's a witch doctor?
Did you find like a broken trace on there too, or?
Yeah, there were 2 or 3 broken traces by the power socket, and I think one was by the ROM sim. But very much like you couldn't see it without a microscope. It's just one of those things where they're just so tiny. It's very difficult to check.
Yep. Yeah, who knows how much longer that thing would have lasted? It worked now, but at any moment it could just die.
Well, here's just on that note. My last live stream was of a Macintosh SE30 that someone sent me to fix up, and it's the next step. It's basically what happens if you don't fix these problems early on and you let it go too far. And that thing was an absolute marathon, 3.5-hour live stream of me repairing traces on that thing. And it was an absolute nightmare. And you can look at something like that and you can say, if this thing had been recapped even a little bit earlier, or not switched on while it had this leakage because it had burned traces, that would have been a much quicker job. It would have been done in like 30 minutes as opposed to 3.5 hours.
Yeah.
That
was fun watching.
At least it worked at the end.
Yeah. Oh man, I couldn't watch the whole thing. I had to go to bed, but in the morning I resumed it, and I didn't even see the message that everyone was like, "Oh, you got to work," and so I'm like, it's not going to work." And there's like the last few minutes because Bruce tests it, and then he had to run, and I'm like, it's not gonna run. And the look on his face when it chimed, he's like, "We got to chime."
Or you could be like Grudy, it bombed! It bombed!
dear. Yeah. So that's what happens if you let it go too far.
Excellent.
Then it becomes a nightmare. So.
Another quick thing that we haven't mentioned yet, and I think it was covered in Ken's video, is the environment in which you store them. You want to keep it in a cool, dry area if you can. Heat and humidity are murder on these things.
Well, hell, Arizona's only got one of those things, so.
I mean, a hot, dry area is better than a cool, damp or a hot, damp area, but it's the humidity is obviously the biggest enemy to these things, especially to those batteries.
Yeah.
And dust. Don't forget dust.
And dust too. Yep.
Arizona's kind of dusty.
Yeah.
Little bit.
Glad I don't live there anymore, but it's still dusty here in Virginia. So hey, it's just very humid here in Virginia now.
I promised a few people I would keep a better eye on the chat tonight, and 10 minutes ago my chat just stopped updating, and I missed like 10, 15 minutes of chat.
You missed a whole lot of stuff, dude.
All right, so anybody have anything else to say about that before we move on to our next topic?
If anyone has questions or something like that.
Yep.
Does anybody else keep looking at the wrong Grudy?
Yeah, I see 3 Grudies.
I keep looking at the dog.
The dog doesn't look too happy there.
The dog's like, put me down.
So just before we go,
that's one of my favorite pictures of Athena. Sorry, Bruce.
That's right. I was just going to say, before we go on to the next topic, I just wanted to mention that today is the 30th anniversary of the release of the Macintosh Classic, the LC, and the 2SI, which were the Apple low-cost computers. That's why I have my little 2SI set up here today with the Mac Yak logo on it, running Photoshop version 3. And obviously the classic was a sub $1,000 computer at the time, pretty big deal. The 2SI was originally going to be a 25 megahertz computer. They released it as a 20 megahertz computer because they didn't want it to compete with the 2CI. And of course the LC, wow, what a dog. Who's got the shirt on?
Well, Bruce, I have a quick question for you since you're talking about prices of those computers back in the day. Because I know a lot of people have talked about the price of the new Mac Pro being, oh, that's ridiculously priced. But then you go back and look at the price of what those older Macs cost when they were brand new, and if you convert the dollars to today's dollars, it's like either more or about the same.
Yeah, I mean, in today's money, certainly out here, if you were to buy, say, something like a Macintosh 2CI, when that was first out, it would have been probably equivalent to about $10,000 in today's money, maybe even a little bit more than that. So yes, that's exactly right. I mean,
but I'm just saying, I laugh at people when they sit there and say, oh, that's way expensive. They've never put out a Mac that expensive. Yeah, they have. They've always done that.
Oh yeah.
And of course, the other thing you have to do is you have to put it into perspective. If you're someone who relies on a computer for your job, I'm someone who relies on a computer for my job. It's ridiculous to be stingy. Really, I mean, I'm not saying that I want to throw money away, but it is crazy to potentially buy an unsuitable computer to do your job. I mean, whether it be sort of tools for building things or tools for programming. I mean, you spend a decent amount of money on that stuff.
Yeah, you do.
Before we move on to the next topic, I'm curious. Do any particular models, whether they be all-in-one or Apple CRTs or a certain age or brand, suffer burn-in more than others? Like, can you leave that Mac Yak logo up there for an hour and a half safely? Or...
They all have burn-in. That's why screensavers were around.
Yeah. So
the compacts especially.
But I'm taking a chance with this. I'm taking a chance that having this like this for the duration of the show won't be enough to give it burn-in.
Don't wiggle the mouse a bit, Bruce.
That's all right. If it happens, then you're permanently a Mac Yak member.
Rare monitor.
Yeah, rare Mac Yak monitor.
I mean, it's not something like an hour or two. It's not going to burn in. But
I should actually mention that this particular screen, which is the 12-inch screen, which obviously fits beautifully on top of the 2SI and the LC, this thing was 512 by 384 pixels, which means that even though this computer is in color with this screen, you can't play heaps of games on it because they go, don't support this resolution size. So thank you, Apple.
I think that was to retain compatibility with the doubling for the Apple II. Isn't that right?
That's-
The Apple
Yeah.
II.
That is correct. Yep. Whoopsie.
Drop some. Pick it up. All right. So again, check out that video on the Computer Clan that Bruce and I contributed to. That's a great watch there. All right. So next topic here is, what operating system should I run on my vintage Mac? And this is a question a lot of people do ask because, you know, some people want to be crazy and run the latest and greatest, like Sean putting 8.1 on his SE30.
And me.
That's the correct operating system.
The answer is simple. If it cannot run 8.6, toss it out. It's useless.
So I mean, the question is, you know, obviously it's a preference type thing. If you want it to run slow but you want more compatibility, you could go that route, or you could use the original operating system and just have a machine that flies. But maybe you can't run all the latest and greatest apps on that. So I guess we could go around each one of us and talk a little bit about that. But somebody take it away.
Sounds good.
Okay, I'll jump in and take then.
Yep, go right.
Or do you want to go, Bruce? I mean, you can go.
No.
Oh, okay.
No, you, Rocky, you please.
All right.
See, Steve, this is where you delegate.
Yeah. So I personally, this is my personal opinion, if your machine has enough RAM and it's one of the 68K lines, preferably not one of the little mini ones, I say go 761 on it. And that's because it's a very good balance of performance. You can skim it down, and you have because honestly, as you go back in the Mac era, you get worse in certain features and stuff like that. So it's not just compatibility, it's also stability overall. And then you go too far forward, you get the same problem, and you get even more, bloat in the OS. But Power PCs all the way up through like the 6500, I would throw 761 on it in preference over going 8 or anywhere close to 9.
Well, plus with 761, it's relatively easy to get it on the internet if you have networking and things like that. So earlier than that, it's possible, but it's more difficult.
As long as you download the magical Open Transport version.
Yes.
And don't have Steve install it for you.
Yeah, that's right. For some reason, it doesn't work for Steve. It's a very good point actually that you make there, Dana, about getting onto the internet, because this is something that I see all of the time. When people have got their vintage Macs set up, it seems to be one of the goals of these. One of the first things they want to do is get it onto the internet, and then post a picture on Facebook of sort of an old Internet Explorer running or something like that. This is actually a really important question. Why indeed? And I think this is sometimes a reason why people end up putting operating systems that are probably a little bit too bloated for the particular computer. If all you're looking to do is transfer data backwards and forwards, you can stick like System 7.1 on there, and you can load Open Transport on there, and you can use sort of an FTP client, and you can transfer stuff backwards and forwards from modern Macs using FTP. Nice and quick and easy. It's not going to use a huge amount of RAM and all that sort of stuff. So for me, that's a priority, because I like to be able to send stuff backwards and forwards over the network. But loading up a web page, which, let's face it, in this day and age is going to be nothing more than a novelty, a totally impractical novelty, because you can't visit any websites properly. You might just get the Google landing page, and that's like about it.
Not even that anymore.
No,
that
has
too much
SSL. scripting
in it.
Yeah. So you basically load it, and it just comes up with all these JavaScript errors, one after the other. I often find that because people do ask me that sometimes, which operating system should I put on this computer, and it does come down to what you want to do with it. It's what you have planned for it. And if your plan is that you want to sort of have the novelty of browsing the internet or something like that, then you put on a newer operating system. But it makes a lot more sense for me to put on one that's period specific, one that suits that hardware.
Right. What we haven't covered though is, it is your preference. I agree with that, but you can always multi-boot on a lot of Macs.
It's true.
And you can run the latest, greatest you want to run, and still run an OS that's still fast and made for your Mac.
As
Yeah,
long as you
it's
have the
not
right system enabled.
But GT just did a video on, what was it, 2009 iMac with 7 operating systems on it. So,
Yep. That
Yeah,
all
the
native. All native. No
Yeah.
DOS dude patches or anything like that.
now, would you all agree that every machine, and there's a lot of machines out there, every machine has a sweet spot that hits
Yes.
compatibility with how smooth it runs?
Yeah.
Definitely.
I think
Absolutely.
Steve should make a guide for that. Per machine, per configuration.
Oh
What is
boy,
the
that'd
sweet
be.
If you're
I mean,
trying to kill me, that's what you're trying to do.
Well, there's a lot of factors in that too, Jay. Is that amount of RAM, the
Assuming
video
maximum
card that's in it. I mean,
maximum RAM, fast hard drive, all that stuff.
yeah, there's a lot of variables. So
Well, and
Oh,
not
so
just that. Also, if you start going into the classic era, a lot of machines are similar and will all run it equally well. Or it'll run a newer version of the OS, but you have to strip out a lot of things to really clean it up and make it a lean, mean machine. And that's another caveat. And I don't know if anybody really wants to go through how to write up a 20-page synopsis. Okay, so you got to remove this one. You got to make sure you got that.
Here's a list of control panels and extensions you can remove.
Yeah,
Oh,
it's,
Lord.
it's like running a copy of Tiger on a G3 Wall Street with maxed RAM. You still got to strip half a Tiger out to make it run right.
Yeah. It's
But
same
I
So
get it,
principle.
and it's fun.
Same principle.
Yeah, well, I think forcing an operating system onto a Mac that can't allow it is probably a whole other can of worms. But so we could get by with this topic without discussing another 90 minutes. Let's go around and for those of you who haven't had your say yet, what do you think? That's a good question that Jay brought up. What do you think is a sweet spot for a particular machine? So let's go to Sean next.
Well, I always used to put 755 on everything that could run it, mainly because you could just download it for free very easily. I don't know if Apple still does that or not.
Yeah, they took
But-
down that whole site, unfortunately. It's
Yeah,
archived.
but you still have Macintosh Guard.
Yeah.
Macintosh Garden, of course. Yeah, well, now I can run anything from Macintosh Garden. Yeah, so it doesn't really matter. Yeah, so I'm always a big fan of System 6, but, it really depends on what you are trying to run, what software and what kind of RAM you have, so what headroom you need.
Yeah.
But I'm very partial myself to 8.1 and 8.6, and I think if a machine can run 8.6 reasonably well, that's what I'm going to put on there, just because it looks just right, it feels just right, and it doesn't have, the latest and greatest, but that's not why we're buying old computers, right?
Yeah.
Who needs latest and greatest?
All right.
8.6 is it's just awesome.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
basically the
Just
most
the right
stable. Yeah.
Let's go to Mike next. Mike, what's your opinion on a sweet spot of an operating system for a particular system?
That's a very long list. Where do you want me to go?
Pick your favorite.
So if it's a 512 plus SE Classic, anything with a 68000, it runs 6.0.8. Anything with a
Yeah.
68020 runs a 7.1 because it actually runs it fairly well.
Yeah.
The 030 machines, I used to run 7.6 on those, and it's a little sluggish, but the only exception to that was the SE30, because the SE30 for some reason doesn't play well with 7.6, but 7.5 runs beautiful on it, as long as you have over 4 megs of memory. And then the 040 machines, I run anything over 8, because with the exception of the very early ones, they run 8 very well. Now I ran my Quadra 700 with 7.6 for years because it was fast as hell. So, and then when you get into Power Max, it's a nightmare to even, you can't even make up a matrix to even figure out the correct operating system for them, because a 6100 and a 7100 are going to run 2 different systems, because the 6100 sucks and the 7100 just sucks less.
Yeah.
So, but 7.5 and up runs great on Power Max. Preferably 8.6 on those. Try to avoid 9 unless you got a PowerPC G3.
Yeah.
Because 9 is sluggish on a G3 as it is. It's extremely. There's so much mixture of old and new code. By the time you hit 9.2, it's ridiculous. So half the operating system is running under emulation as it is, which is a nightmare in and of itself. So just remember, more RAM, bigger hard drive, you're good.
Yep.
I
If
agree
you
with
can
pretty
get a
much
bigger
all that.
hard drive, with the older machines with the SCSI hard drives, it's getting hard. But thank God there's modern solutions for that now.
Yeah, I think if you have a PowerPC that's beyond the 601, 8.6 is your best bet.
If
Until
have
you
one that has
start
a
getting
601, I feel bad for you.
Yeah.
Thankfully,
You
there's
start
only
getting
3 of
into
them.
the early G3s. I mean, even the early G3s would run 8.6 just great. But then, once you start getting into the early 2000s, then you're looking at OS 9 on the G4s, Tiger on the G4s. Leopard, I never really had much luck with on G4s, even the fastest ones. It just feels really sluggish, but it does have features that Tiger doesn't have. So it depends again on what you need it for, what you want to do with it.
And the very, very early Power Mac G4s also supported 8.6, which is nice.
Yeah, I ran that on my Sawtooth.
Does anybody really know what the point of running OS 9 really is? Is there really
compatibility?
And I'm not trying to be a jerk. I'm just wondering.
Yeah, you
if
are.
there's
You
valid
are.
reason
Just
to run
it's literally
OS
just
9 at all.
Carbon games.
It's just merely to run old classic programs that, if the hardware doesn't support 8.6, you're stuck with 9.
I ran 922 on my work group server for 10 years, and it was the slowest, buggiest operating system I ever ran.
Yeah, but if you put 9.2 on a G4, it'll fly.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. Well, any copy of OS 9 will fly on a G4.
Yeah.
The only problem is you can't. If you have your G4 maxed out, you're kind of SOL because you can't even use all the RAM.
Yeah. Well, you can.
Although
with,
a gig and a half of RAM under OS 9 is a hell of a lot of memory.
I was going to say that a gig and a half under 9's good.
Yeah, that's a lot of memory. Ton of it. Oh boy. All right. So Grudy, is that your answer?
Which?
All right. That's Grudy's answer. Greg, what about you?
Well, seeing that I don't have anything classic here, my sweet spot, I'm going to go with my G5 and G4s, is OS 10 Tiger. That seems to run very well. Plus, it has the classic interface in it, so I can actually play my classic games on the G4 and the G5 with no problems.
Real tournament.
Exactly.
If the game works with it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Most of the
Sometimes it
ones I
won't.
play does work with the classic environment. So.
Yeah.
All right, GT, let me ask you this. What is the oldest Mac you've got there?
The oldest Mac I have would probably be my G3, my iMac G3.
Okay. All right. So what, late 90s, early 2000s?
Now, yeah, it's the slot loader. It's not
That's
the
an 8.6
tray
machine.
Yeah.
Perfect for it.
It's a graphite.
But you don't do a whole lot with it, right? I mean, as
It
far as
sits
the
there
machines
on top of my shelf right now.
It weighs it down.
It just occurred to me that like GT has pretty much everything he's using fairly often is from like 2007 on to more modern stuff. With me, the newest Mac that I have is a 2012. So,
well,
that is the
I'm
absolute
actually
newest.
wating the stream
Everything
on a
else is like,
2017. so
80s, 90s, and
We've
early
been noticing that
2000s.
with your attempts to live stream.
I
Yeah.
know. I know.
But you got to remember, Dane, I'm using a 2009 CMP to do the stream on.
Yeah, well, I'm on a 2009 Mac Pro right now.
Yeah.
So, as far as that whole situation goes, I think I've got it figured out. I'm going to buy my first new Mac in 8 years. So,
well, I do have a 2017 here, and behind me, right over, if I can see which way I'm pointing.
That's the clock, GT.
Yeah, right there is a 2015 iMac that I got that somebody brought in for recycle, so I kind of got that one for free. And it's running Catalina, no problem right now.
Recycles a 2015 iMac.
Somebody that doesn't know
People
what
that
the
shop
hell
at
they're
Best
doing.
Buy.
Because, pretty much, because, let's put it to you this way. It got sent there. I met them outside. They wanted to recycle. I asked them if I could have it. They're like, yeah, no problem. He said that something was wrong with the hard drive. Well, I go in there. Nothing was wrong with the hard drive. They just tried installing Mojave on it, and it corrupted somehow, and it just got into a boot loop. So all I had to do was reformat the hard drive, and it fixed it.
Some people just, they'll just give up on it and say, well, I'll buy a new one because the money is not an object.
You have to remember, the area I live in here in Virginia is Northern Virginia. It's near D.C. So it is a rich,
fairly wealthy,
very, very wealthy area. So you see nothing. I see Teslas like they're going out of style here. I mean, there's Tesla every 5 cars is a Tesla. Okay.
Yeah.
So you see that everywhere here. So it's not shocking to see somebody throwing away stuff. I mean, like that, because they just don't need it.
Expensive hairdressers as well.
Yeah, my wife knows that one.
All right. So, anybody else have a comment about your sweet spot operating system for a vintage Mac before we move on to our next topic?
I don't have anything retro. My collecting begins with the G3 blue and white. For the G3, I will always go to 8.6. For anything G4, I will always go to 9.2. That's either natively or through the macOS 9 Lives image. And of course Tiger, but I'm sticking to the retro stuff.
Yeah, Tiger's the best.
I think Tiger's fairly retro at this point.
Yeah, I agree with Mike. If you can run Tiger, run Tiger.
If you can't.
And Mike's muted.
Well, yeah. With the I want to say something with the beige Macs. I do always tend to run on the older side rather than the newer side. So I mean, like with this SI, okay, this was originally released with 607, but it will run up to I think about 7.5 or something like that. I mean, I run 7.1 on this. 7.6, yeah. So I run 7.1 on this. I find it provides me a balance of functionality versus versus speed. But keeping in mind what it is that I do with these, the software I want to run on them. But I always tend to err on the side of go with a slightly older version than newer because I prefer to get the speed rather than whatever functions they might have added for what I do.
Well, and a 2SI is one of those rare, kind of those odd machines that actually runs better on 7.1 than it does 7.5 anyway. So, especially with the limited memory that they can use.
What is it? They can go. I think I've got 60 something in this one, which is not bad for an old Mac 2 computer.
No, that's not bad at all.
Now, do you have the updated ROM in that?
Don't know.
Oh. Well, you would know. It would have you would have bought it from. I can't remember where you get it.
Big mess of wires.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Rominator.
put it in a ROM sim.
Yeah.
I mean, Apple never went out of their way to actually update the ROM. That'd be too much like right.
I've still got the original ROM in there.
So yeah, I think if you put the new ROM in, it gets even better with the totally 32-bit clean ROM sim.
Yeah. I mean, I do have a Rominator, but I use it for testing, so I sort of don't stick it in to permanently live in any computer.
Yeah, I would echo a lot of what's going on about the System 7.1 on some of the later machines or early System 6. And it's funny because I don't have a lot of experience with System 6 too much because the first Mac I had, I think 7.1 was installed on it. But usually System 7 is my sweet spot there. But very, very good to have some expert advice from the group.
I love System 6.
I do too.
I gotta play around with it.
The only thing that kind of sucks is it doesn't have color.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the computers it was designed for, none of them had color anyway, so it didn't really matter.
Right.
So.
All right. So next topic we have
still
here.
Have a colored background if you want.
That's true.
Yeah.
We did talk about vintage prices and a price guide already, so we're going to skip that. But the next topic here is the best vintage Mac deals you've scored. So, in the interest of not going on for 3 hours, we'll limit it to one per person. So let's look at the Brady Bunch thing here, and we'll start off with. How about we start off with Greg T in the top left?
The best score that I've had. Ooh.
Computer-wise.
Well, he gets all his crap
Yeah, I
for
know.
free, so
Yeah, all his-
I've got a whole bunch of stuff here that I've scored, but
The time,
I would say, well, it has to be retro, right?
Yeah.
let's say at least 7 years old.
At least 7 years old. Okay. I would actually say the best score I had was probably my iMac G4. I got that one I paid $75, but I also got a Atari 1200 XT with it and a Mac Mini, and I also got you guys saw it before. I think Mike, you saw that pizza box one I had. That Performa,
oh yeah, isn't there Performa 400 or something?
something like that. I can't remember. I ended up selling
no,
that
C2.
one,
Oh,
but
that was the okay. I know which one. That's the one I was interested in.
yeah,
That was actually a Power Mac version though.
The
Yes,
Performance
but,
6360, I think,
Yeah, I
wasn't it?
think that's what it was. 6300 series.
but I would say my iMac, because it's just classic looking. I like the way it's designed. It still works great. I thank Mike for the Pro speakers, because Mike gave me the Pro speakers. We traded some. I had some 1,1 parts. He traded for the Pro speakers for me. So
And I still use that
and those things
1,1.
yeah, and I'm still using the Pro speakers here. So
Good trade.
so yeah, I would say my iMac G4.
All right. Well, Jay is currently missing in action, so I will go. I think the best score that I got was the one visit I met up with a guy. I think it was a year and a half ago. I was going there to get the blue and white G3 LCD, and that was $20. So that was already a good deal. And the story goes, as I was putting it in my car, I just say, "Hey, you have anything else?" And he's like, "Yeah, sure, come inside." And long story short, I traded my erasing services because the guy had data on the things that he couldn't leave them with, and that's why he had this collection of computers. And I walked away with an eMac, an iBook, a Blu-ray clamshell, a 6100 workgroup server machine, a 9600, an iMac G3, and did I say the eMac already? Yeah, I think I did. And a Mac Mini that was kind of working. And the deal was for $50 for all of that. And
Wow.
the icing on the cake was, as I was bringing that to the car, and I said, "Is there anything else?" joking with him, not expecting him to say anything. He says, "Yeah, I have an old Apple in the basement, but you probably don't want it. It's very old." And I'm thinking, what does this guy have? What is it? And that was an Apple III with the monitor, the profile hard drive, and the external disk drive, and that was like an extra 10 or whatever dollars that I threw at him. But yeah, that was
I think
that
you win this game.
I don't think I could top
Uh-huh.
that. That was
Yeah,
just
I can't top that.
That's a
right
winner.
place at the right time. And again, I always tell people, if you're going to pick up a wire or a keyboard or a printer, it may have friends, so it never hurts to ask.
It's very
I
true.
like that. May have
My
friends.
goodness, I had to ask, and I'm very glad I did. Otherwise, who knows what would happen to that stuff. So,
Wow.
all right. So if we're following our, let's do a spiral here. We'll save Sean for last. Bruce, next. Go.
Okay, so I did actually have quite a good one recently in that it didn't cost me anything. I got this completely for free. I got a Snow G3 iMac. I got an eMac with a swivel stand. I got a G4 Tower dual processor 500 megahertz. I got 2 iBooks, and I can't remember something else.
Pile.
And
You got a pile.
I got a pile, and that was all nothing. But to be totally honest, that vintage of stuff, I really only wanted the G4 Tower, to be honest. But that stuff not particularly interesting to me. But the one that was the most valuable to me was when I bought a batch of computers, and there was a Mac 2 that had a radius rocket inside, 68040 radius rocket inside, and that one thing. I mean, look, I got a Quadra 700 out of that one as well. I paid for eight computers. I paid $100 and something, and I got a working Quadra 700, a working Mac 2 CI. You know, I got a lot in that deal. But the one treasure in that, which was just wonderful to get, was a Nubus Radius Rocket 68040 CPU. So that was
Australian dollars too.
Yeah, that's right.
Now I officially hate you.
Well, you're next, Mike. So
Yeah, you're next. So whenever you're ready, Mike, tell us a good vintage deal that you've got.
Well, the best vintage deal I ever got is I got this little laptop from a guy, and he thinks he's getting it back, but he's not.
You bastard!
Now that I took jobs at Steve again,
That's
my
low.
best deal was my iMac prototype, my G5 iMac.
Yes.
Not only is it my favorite computer, unfortunately, it's sitting in my closet, but yeah, it's actually one of the cheapest ones I ever got at $50. And I bought it sight unseen, condition unknown. Totally, the guy didn't even have any specs on it or nothing. I was actually kind of hoping it was an Intel model, but it was actually a G5, and we found out it was a prototype. And it's like, okay, yeah, it's like this is I bought it for $50 just because it looked nice. So that's my well, I don't even remember what I paid for my G4Q. Probably more than it was worth since it doesn't work.
You picked it out.
I got this crappy G4 Cube from Steve. It's been a nightmare. Processor card shot.
Mike, that's all right though. I've got an Apple II that I'm going to be hopefully picking up soon. But Steve has tested it, so
my Apple. Oh well, you're getting a 2E. My Apple II Plus. My Apple II Plus is one of the. We were talking about values of computers. Now I bought an Apple II Plus from a guy in Carlisle. I paid the guy $130 for the thing because it was the machine, the Disk 2 card, 2 disk drives, a language card which expanded to 64K of memory, and a Grappler parallel printer card. And I still have not gotten the damn thing running yet. So that's one of those computers that you buy it because how many do you run across it, and especially complete. I mean, it was complete. So that's one of those examples of spending the money just because you're not going to really find too many of them.
Yeah.
So, and luckily Steve got me charged for that. So,
yes. We'll do another crazy live stream when you come over. Oh boy. Yeah. All right. So, Greg, you're up next. Rudy?
Well, before I go, I want to answer this question in the chat real quick. Did I ever fix one for a Cube power supply? No, but they are, from what I hear, fixable. The caps in them like to blow, and you just pry them open and change out the caps, and I hear they work after that. It's the opening that's the problem. But anyway, my best deal, I was thinking, was the one that Steve set me up with years ago. At this point, well, has it been years? Yeah, it's been almost 2 years now. We were talking about it in late 2018, where I got a an S900 Super Mac for $70.
Whoa. Yep.
But then Mike reminded me that my actual best deal wasn't that. My best deal was getting my iBook G3 clamshell prototype for $125. Because the guy on eBay that was selling it just thought it was a normal iBook G3, and I was looking through eBay, just looking around at random machines for stuff that I might want to buy for parts or something, and I came across an interesting clamshell. There was barely any pictures of it, but there was a picture of the speed it was running at, and there was a picture of the ports on the side. And first I was looking at the speed it was running at. It was running Tiger, and it was running at 466 megahertz, but it was in a Blueberry case. So I was like, oh, so someone did a case swap. I wonder how bad the FireWire port looks from them cutting the hole, or even if they did cut the hole open. And I'm looking at the side port picture, I'm like, they didn't cut the case open, and it's marked FireWire. Oh! And I bought it immediately. I didn't even hesitate. I bought it immediately, and I'm like, this could be a prototype. it got delivered, and you guys saw my unboxing video
Oh,
on that.
yeah.
I've
Yeah,
It is a prototype. It's a prototype. Oh my
just put a
god.
link. Just put a link to the video in the chat.
Oh yeah, you guys gotta watch that.
And
Just
that was
just be sure to
definitely-
turn your volume down before you
Oh,
actually
we're
watch it.
Yeah.
though.
Yeah, it was definitely the best Mac deal I ever got. Getting a iBook G3 prototype for 125 bucks, and it's possibly the only 466 in existence prototype wise. Hap's got the 366 version of it.
So, have you destroyed it yet?
No, and I upgraded it. I got it running really nice. So
Has Hap tried to buy it from me yet?
It would be
not yet.
it would be more prudent to ask me if he bled on it yet.
Well, that's a given. He's already probably done that.
I might have,
Sacrifice
yeah.
to the Mac gods. All right, that's a good deal. All right, cool. Dana, you're up next.
I'm going to go with a loaded Quadra 950 for the low price of free.
Ooh. You win.
Hey, you win.
Yeah, that was it had maxed RAM, had a 1 gig hard drive in it that somebody had upgraded. I'm trying to remember if it had a video card. I don't think it did. I think it was running off the built-in video, and no CD drive, but 2 keys, and one of them apparently is going to go to Bruce.
Yes, please.
And yeah, it was so back in I think 2004, something like that. We actually shared my place of employment. We shared our building with another company that moved in because they had lost the lease on where they were at, and so they moved in and they had a whole bunch of old vintage Macs that they had been saving, because as you upgrade through your, through the years, they just never threw any out. And they had, and I kicked myself a little bit because they had several compacts. I think there was an SE30. I think there was a Plus. And I can't remember what else, but the Quadra was the one that I really wanted. And at the time, I wasn't too into compacts at all. So I said, well, I don't care about the compacts, but the Quadra 950, are you going to get rid of it? And they said, yeah, we'll throw it out unless you want it. And I said, yeah, I'll take it home.
Inside, Dana's like, ah!
Yeah. I
When you
got it
say-
home, I was like, woo!
When you say maxed out RAM, how much?
256.
Wow. Maxed
Whoa.
out.
That is
Which, by the
massive.
way, in 1991, that probably would have been about a $12,000 or $13,000 computer.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That amount of RAM back then, insane.
And they don't
expensive.
recap the power supply will need recapped at some point. I'm just going to let it fail, but then I'm probably going to hack an ATX power supply into it. But yeah, the logic boards use tantalum, so you don't need to recap it. So I could
Nice.
boot it up right now, and it would work just great.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
That's a lucky
awesome.
win.
that was my luckiest.
Wow. And what year was that? Did you say?
What year?
Yeah, roughly.
I want to say it was
Just
around
curious.
2004, like early 2004,
Mm-hmm.
and it had just been sitting in their closet.
Awesome.
So
Well,
around that time,
I was
the
gonna
computer was only like around 12 years old. Wasn't
Yeah.
even that old yet.
Yeah, I mean, I still use it now. I think on my Facebook, I have now. I have to admit, I've taken some of that RAM out and put it in other machines, for testing and
Share the
stuff.
wealth.
But I have
There.
pictures on my Facebook of it running 761, and it was on the internet. It was pretty fun.
awesome.
Cool.
All right, so let's swing by Jay now that he's back. Before we go to Rocky, Jay, what is your best vintage or retro deal that you've scored in the past couple of years that still comes?
A bunch of G4 cubes, mirror drive doors, and Xserves G5s, all free out of the recycle bin.
Oh,
A
Can be
cube
bad.
out of the recycle bin.
I never say no to free, but
Well,
as you
who
guys know,
can?
and most people watching probably, my retro begins in 1998 with the G3 blue and white. So I don't really have a lot of old stuff that I focus on. Just G3, G4, G5. That's, well, not even G5. G3 and G4 mostly. So I focus on that. I pass up a lot of stuff unless I call you guys, say, hey, anyone want this? And you guys say, yeah.
And then you leave it in your
Right
basement.
now, and then it ends up in my basement for 2 years. But
And
I-
Jay,
I-
doesn't
2
have
years.
anything- Jay doesn't have anything that old because he doesn't understand it.
He doesn't have the patience.
fire it up. Doesn't
Yeah,
run
he
out.
doesn't. He doesn't
I
have the
toss it.
patience to work with Scuzzy.
But yeah, the recycle bin has been good to me over the past few years.
Awesome. All right. So, Rocky, what is your? If you're still there, I see cows. Oh, there you are.
Yeah, I'm still here. Yeah.
What is your best vintage or retro pickup?
That's a tough one because I don't want to go for the free card, but that's about the best that I can do. Is actually I
free's
used to
free,
work as
man.
yeah. Well, I worked as a para for a school for a while, and then I went to work for a company that did the Apple service work for them and stuff. So wound up, they had a huge upper level to one of their storage garages and stuff that was just nothing but old vintage equipment, and I got in that set my it was a 6400 6500, but it was the EEV model, and it was decked out to the ceiling, and I got that for free. So I was I loved that computer, and then like an idiot I got rid of it many years later, but yeah, didn't realize how much it was worth until now.
Oh boy, that's rough, but that's really cool. That's a cool find. All right, last but certainly not least, Sean.
Oh man,
Take it away.
I've got nothing compared to what you guys have found. Jeez.
Well, you started off by telling us, what, half an hour ago that you tend to overpay for everything.
Yeah, I have the opposite of what you guys have.
You gotta change your
I have anti deals. I like work against myself and pay way too much. I guess if I was gonna pick one to be my best deal, I think I'd have to go with the cursed Mac because
Ooh.
I did not know what I was gonna get when I got that machine. I paid. He was asking for like $100. I offered $60 because the picture was just like a grainy picture of a black painted what looked like a Mac SE, not even an SE30. And I posted on Discord and asked people what they thought, and like, that's definitely an SE, and no pictures of it on. So I bought it, and it turns out it works. First of all, second of all, it was an SE30 board in there, maxed out to 128 megs of RAM. It came with 2 Jazz drives, and one that was hacked into the case internally, and an external Jazz drive, sealed
Gee.
Jazz discs.
Not
It had
sealed anymore.
Nope, opened it.
Yeah.
It had a CD-ROM hacked into the case, and the CD-ROM didn't work, but I've replaced that, and it works now. And yeah, I mean, it was completely crazy, but mostly working machine for $60, and now, I made a couple of videos off of it, and people seem to really enjoy them. So I guess that would have to be the best deal I ever got.
I
Awesome.
loved how some of that stuff was attached inside there with tape.
Speakers, dude.
Yeah.
Just like masking tape, not even electrical tape.
Masking
just like
tape
brown.
is zip ties. It
graphic.
fixes
I mean, it's
everything.
cool that it had, what was it, 4 speakers in there?
Yeah.
Yeah, 4 random
If you're gonna
different
go
speakers.
through that effort, and the previous owner obviously had no trouble taking a Dremel to the thing, or back then you didn't have a Dremel, a hacksaw. Why would you not make holes for the speakers? Because I imagine that would be muffled as hell, just taping them on the inside of the
Yep.
case.
Well, I don't think it was very good with the Dremel, because if you look at some of the cuts he made inside, they're kind of like, So I'm kind of glad he didn't try to cut holes for those.
Plus, those little compacts weren't exactly used for playing music very often. They would, if any sound they ever made, it was like a beep or a quack or an eep, now and then we did something wrong. Other than that, people didn't. There were no MP3s.
I'm going to
so-
say they only had 1-bit sound, so
Yeah.
Yeah, well, he had the CD-ROM sound spliced into the speaker, so it was the sound from the motherboard and the
Oh,
CD-ROM
right.
spliced together.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that probably didn't sound too great.
Yeah.
Well, and the funny thing is that I think the SE30 uses was it a 63 ohm 0.25 watt speaker or something like that? So I don't know we're particularly concerned about matching impedances or anything like that. Just
Yeah.
like speakers.
More speakers. Make it louder.
Yeah, I do wonder how it sounds, but I've never tried that.
Oh boy.
Took all that rat's nest out of there. Just random speaker wires.
Oh boy. All right.
Well, that
good
kind of
answers all around.
leads into something else. I think Sean mentioned earlier about the best Mac mods, vintage mods that we've seen. And he's
Best
done
as
it.
in coolest, or best as in I took a hacksaw and squeezed the jazz drive into it?
Well, I mean that's functional, but it's not exactly elegant, I don't think. But yeah, he's done a few mods to that G4 Cube here lately. I love the LED mod that you put in that thing. That was really cool.
Oh, thanks. It was a little controversial. Not everyone loved it. I love it.
Yeah.
I think it looks awesome.
I will tell
I
you.
gave him a good amount
Jay-
of grief about it, but it did look good.
No, I tell you,
Put stickers on it.
Yeah, when I saw the thumbnail and I'm like, this is gonna look horrible, because I didn't know where you were gonna put. I thought you could put them on the side or whatever.
Yeah.
And then at the end of the video, I'm like, all right, that looks pretty cool, especially with the glass reflecting on the table and everything. I mean, that was a good job, well done.
Thanks.
All right, well, this sort of bleeds into the next conversation here, whether it's a mod or a replacement part. But the topic is we're going to talk about replacement parts and upgrades for vintage computers, things that you're replacing a part that is no longer manufactured, like a SCSI hard drive, or you're replacing something that is no longer sold, let's say a RAM chip or a ROM chip or an adapter or cable or something like that. A lot of these you've heard us talk about in the past, like a SCSI 2 SD adapter could replace a hard drive. But depending on the vintage Mac, there could be a few other options there. I think, Sean, you said you had a few examples that you'd like to talk about, and we could all chime in. Oh, you got one.
Yeah.
He's had a lap full of stuff for the last hour and a half just waiting.
Yeah, so this is something that this is like my favorite thing about vintage computers is trying to hack in like other stuff. I mean, I know that's not, I don't always keep things period accurate. So I've got the SCSI to SD, of course, which is quite convenient for a SCSI machine to replace the hard drive, and it's self-terminating, so you don't have to deal with any SCSI shenanigans.
Variation of the same thing.
Yep. And they make all different kinds. So mine, I got the one that has the little cool bracket because this was going to go in the front of my Umax S900, although the white doesn't quite match, so that didn't quite work out. But there's a lot of stuff that I found that works really well on other machines that you don't always hear about. So one of my favorite things is machines that use IDE. I use these little guys, and this is a M.2 or MSATA SSD adapter to 2.5-inch IDE.
Wow.
And it just fits a little MSATA SSD in there. And this solution is extremely inexpensive. I mean, the adapter costs like $5 on eBay. And these little MSATA SSDs, I mean, this is like a 120 gigabyte, and that's like $20
That's not
on
vintage
Amazon.
GT. Put it away.
But they're SSDs. They're 128 MSATAs.
Oh, those MSATAs are awesome. I put one of those in a few of the Pismos I have, and they run Tigers smooth, dude.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
So
I
I got like a half size one of these.
Can I just say something very quickly about that one you just had there, Sean? I just wanted to make mention that I had absolutely zero success getting one of those to work in an old G3 laptop. I was able to get it to work like in the G4 titanium, but the G3, even though it would recognize the drive, I would be able to format it. I could even copy things to it. I simply could not install operating systems on it. It would just fail.
Some
And it was
Macs
G3?
requires a special adapter.
Yeah.
I found one that works in every Mac I've ever tried it in.
Okay. I
But
would love a link to
there's
that.
some that just don't work.
I want to link to
Yeah,
that.
I'll send a link to it.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, so I've had great success with this particular one. in every laptop I've ever put it in. I have a half-height one of these in my G4 Cube, and that thing boots extremely fast, like 2 seconds in the Tiger. With
Yeah,
this
that one
driver.
looks a lot like the one that I use.
Yeah, yeah.
Links.
I'm looking for it. I'm looking for it.
And then, of course, I used to use these all the time, which are just for these super cheapo little SSDs, and they're just little SATA adapter to
Yeah.
IDE.
I have
These
one of
work
those.
pretty well, although they're kind of hit and miss. Like I found that this kind, I've gotten some that just have like broken solder joints.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
I
they're
mean, the
super
SSDs
cheap.
don't weigh much, but you're still putting the whole weight of the drive on those little solder joints without,
Yeah.
some sort of a mounting bracket. So
Yeah, and functionality and all that.
bound to happen.
I think I tried at least 6 different brands because I use those in my Xserve RAIDs to convert the IDE to SATA for all the drives in there, and only one reliable one really.
Yeah.
They mostly suck.
I've got one here, and looks like it's been soldered by a child. So
Yeah.
That was me. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I think going forward, I'm just going to use these all the time because they make like laptop to desktop, 2.5 to 3.5 adapters. That's actually what's in the Cube. Is this guy? So it's a MSATA SSD running through 2 different adapters, but it works awesome.
Oh, and I've dropped the link into the chat, by the way.
excellent.
Cool.
Oh,
Thank you.
Ah,
Now everybody rush out
sorry
and
to
my
flood
end
the
of the
show
show,
with
but
purchases.
I forgot. Did you put a fan in your Cube?
Oh yeah, so I put a fan in the bottom of the Cube, and I actually had one in there. So that Cube was a pretty good deal. I had a Sonnet 1.2 gigahertz, and it had the fan, but the VRM was broken. Actually, the fan connector, like the header on the board, was broken off. So I bought that upgraded VRM from Japan, and I put a new
Those
fan.
suckers are expensive.
It's like $200.
Yeah.
Crap.
Didn't I mention like a couple
Yeah, you
times
did.
that I spent way too much?
We can still be shocked though.
I have a broken
Hey, it
computer. I
came
can
from
suck it,
Japan.
Sean.
Do you have any more? Do you have any more bits there, Sean? Because I've got a couple more.
I've got one more that I'm excited about. So I want to put like a CF card or like a SD card reader in the Cube. So I got this little guy. And one of the coolest things that I discovered is they make
I have one of
these-
those.
They make these kind of adapters.
Oh yeah, the extensions. Yeah.
Yeah, the extension for SD cards. So I can run this, connect the extender to this little guy, and run this anywhere.
Wow,
Yeah.
that is
I did
awesome.
not know these existed until pretty recently.
I
Yeah,
guess
look at
only
that.
$500.
We're
They-
you on the retro Mac cast, and they mentioned that I think.
Yeah, he's the one who told me
I remember
about it.
watching it.
My other suggestion for that is just replace the missing CD-ROM drive with another SSD, and have 2 drives in there. Because you can always install through USB. I mean, you have to type in commands,
Yeah,
but
I mean the
Cool.
FireWire port works fine, so it's kind of not needed
too.
to put that in
Yeah.
there. It's just for the cool fact.
Awesome. Cool. All right, Bruce. You said you had some goodies to share, potentially. He might be muted. He might be taking a call.
Yeah, you're muted.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, my phone was just ringing. So and I just didn't want everyone to have to suffer through that. So this is
Go
a
ahead and
very
answer it.
similar one to the one Sean just had there, except this one's using a full size sort of SD.
I've got
card
that
in there.
exact one, as a matter of fact.
And
that you
then
have.
this is a version of this is an SD card one like the white one that you had there. So this is like designed for putting into a laptop. And so and again, these things are absolutely dirt cheap to buy. So you can find those ones there as well. One thing I just wanted to say about the extender, I've got one, but I've never actually bothered to try it. But I did have someone once say to me that those extenders slow the speed down of the transfer to the SD card. I've never tried one, so I can't say if it does, but just something to maybe look into when you're doing it. Try it with the extender and without, and see if you get any sort of speed difference.
Interesting.
I'd be curious. Yeah.
And I forgot to mention things like if you have an iPod, you can always just do SD adapters for those too.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. Yeah. So,
So I have a quick-
basically any spinning disc can be replaced by a flash disc.
I have a quick question about is it true that CF cards are good for OS 9 but not OS 10?
I would say good for OS 8 and 9. I wouldn't want to put it on there. I would definitely go with the
Well,
7.6.
it's because more modern operating systems use a lot of swapping, and SDs
Yep.
aren't really meant to write to a lot.
Right.
They'll read forever, but writing to a lot
Okay.
for any modern operating system can fry them pretty quick.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, thankfully they're so cheap these days that if you get a 64 gig card for like $7.99, if it breaks, it breaks. there are lifetime warranties on most cards too. So
I also wanted to mention, this is something that someone told me. I don't know if it's true, but apparently, if you're doing an IDE to an SD, it has to go through some sort of conversion process. But a compact flash is apparently virtually straight through pins for IDE.
Yeah.
So the adapters are a lot simpler.
Yeah.
But obviously the downside is that compact flash cards these days are a lot more expensive than an SD card.
Yeah.
definitely, yeah. All right. Any other thoughts about, let's say, replacement parts for vintage computers? I'm thinking along the same lines, like, optical drives. You could use like an SD card adapter, IDE to SD or something like that. SCSI to SD is an excellent one. There's also a few projects going around for power supply replacements or for some
That'd be nice.
for retro computers, which are nice. Some of them are for like the Mac 2s and the Mac LCs and stuff. I know that I've seen a few. It's sort of like a build-it-yourself kit type thing, but I thought those are pretty neat. Any other things that you guys have seen?
I'm
Macintosh
just happy
Librarian
that
has
vintage
just said-
RAM does not fail.
Yes.
We've got
floppy-
Macintosh Librarian saying floppy
floppy
email.
emails, Yep.
Yes.
yeah.
Yep.
And
Yes,
and
very
of course
cool.
they're fantastic, in particular if you're dealing with Apple IIs, sorry, Apple II, is it 2GSs, the original 128K, 512K Mac Plus, sort of
Things that didn't have a hard drive.
Yeah, that's right, and even the Lisa, the Apple Lisa, they're good for those. They're really
Yeah,
great
I-
little device. Maybe
I had to pick up
expensive,
one of
but
those.
yeah.
Oh, I just thought of something. I got an email a few weeks ago, or a week or so ago, by this guy named John Loki, who emailed me and Colin and It's My Natural Color and Ken. He is making adapter cables now and selling them on eBay that allow you to plug in any ATX power supply into a Power Mac, which, from what I can tell,
What year Power Mac?
Specifically the G4s, wasn't it?
the G3 through G4.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh shoot, I wouldn't mind getting one of those adapters.
Yeah, they're pretty neat. I've seen them. I haven't ordered one yet, but I'd
Because
say
you
they'd
could make
work.
them, but
Yeah, they're
Those
pre-made, so it saves a
little
lot
power
of time.
supplies are expensive to replace.
Because I hand wired an
Yeah.
ATX power supply once, and I've got it on video of my fingers just being covered in cuts and just bleeding everywhere.
Well,
I'd rather
that's
never
par
do
for
that
the course
again.
for your
Don't do it
videos.
like that.
yeah. I would
Um,
say a good mod coming onto that I've done, which is an upgrade or replacement, and it especially applies to the G series going later, but it also applies to earlier ones because I've even done replacements on earlier machines like the LCs and stuff like that, is replacing the stock fan with a newer, quieter, better fan that has higher air movement and runs within the same voltage spec, and that makes such a difference on those
Yeah.
machines.
They make fans a lot quieter nowadays because back then they didn't care about it. But now you've got
Totally.
companies like
Noctua is the
Be
go-to
Quiet
brand.
and Noctua and ones like that. That's I like to replace fans whenever I can.
Hey, that's a
one
good
of
one. I didn't
the-
think about that.
one of the big problems, I just wanted to mention this quickly, was one of the big problems with older Macs and when it comes to repairing is, of course, sourcing components, because some of those components are either just made by Apple and can't be sourced anymore. You can only source them off other boards, donor boards, or it's very difficult to get hold of some of this stuff. It might be different if you're dealing with, say, like a RAM chip off an old 128K or 512K Mac. You can probably still source those. But for anyone who is trying to find a component, they might have the code of the thing and they're trying to find an old component that they don't make anymore. I'm going to put a link into the chat. It's a website called utsource.net. And you basically go in there, you type in the code, and some places have them in stock. Sometimes they're secondhand. They've just been raided off other boards and they've put them into supply. But I managed to pick up a whole bunch of sound chips for Macintoshes that just were unprocurable. And I managed to buy a whole bunch of them off UT Source. And there's chips that I've been using for like Amigas as well. Been buying off there. So if you are searching for a component and you haven't been able to find it at the normal places like eBay or AliExpress or something like that, have a look at UT Source. If they don't have them, you're not going to get them.
That's a good tip. Yeah, I got Bruce's scraps of sound chips. So.
I got so excited when you said UT Source. Oh, I can download maps where I'm real
Different sort of UT, I'm afraid.
Oh boy.
Oh, I didn't even
And
know
Rudy
about
put
that
the
site.
link in there for the ATX adapter for the G4. Very cool. All right. So, second to last topic here. I know we're running long, but I think we're all having a blast here. So, the last topic we have here, a few suggestions we've actually sort of talked about a little bit during this show. But we want to talk about transferring data from an older Mac to a newer Mac and vice versa. We talked a little bit about open transport. We talked a little bit about, versions of System 7 that are more compatible with this or that. But, another thing that you could also, mention is, not networkable. It doesn't have to be a network. You could use a floppy disk, SneakerNet, a zip disk. I personally think zip disks are great for that because they were built into a lot of Power Macs, especially the G4 towers, G3 towers. Some of the beige models had add-on options for the zip drive there, and they were stupid popular. I mean, anybody who worked in a school or had access to a library and had computers, there was usually at least one of them that had a zip drive, especially art studios or anything that had to work with larger files. And so having a zip drive is good, but people are like, oh, well, but why? Well, first off, the zip drive is SCSI. So one of the models of the zip drive is SCSI. So you can, use that on basically any Mac that has a SCSI port on it. And the great thing about that is they made more modern zip drives. They made USB ones. They made FireWire ones. Heck, they even have PC parallel port ones. So it really will connect to pretty much any type of a computer out there that has the capability to connect to. There was a model that came out with. They had ones in laptops and such. So that's my go-to for transferring stuff. If it's not networked, I put it on a zip disk or a floppy disk if I can. But I think that's just a trick I always had up my sleeve when I started preparing these things, because you could even boot off of them. On most Macs you could boot off a zip disk without a problem. It's a little slow, but it works. So that's
Mind if
that's
I
my
jump
tip.
in?
Yeah, go ahead.
Because I am all about zip, baby. I got 100, 250, 750, USB and FireWire, and I try to build them into any of the G3s and G4s that I can. Although I have yet to find a nice faceplate for the 250 for the MDD. Although I think I have a faceplate for the MDD for a zip drive. I don't remember. It's in the basement somewhere probably. But yeah, zip all the way. Any data that goes from an old to a new machine or the other way around, I archive it with Stuff It. I always stuff it everything unless it goes from a G4 to a G4 or same to same. If it has to bridge a lot of years or operating system versions, I always stuff it. But yeah, zip is my go-to.
Yep.
And FTP, but mostly zip. Was that SCSI?
Yeah.
Yep. I think Macintosh Librarian was asking about that. She goes, I need.
Well, since we're showing,
She says, I need to find a SCSI zip.
Yeah, I'm the same. I don't. I've had so many of them but I don't have a SCSI one anymore. I've only got USB ones. So I thought, what am I going to need a SCSI one for?
And now you know.
Look at who's got all the iOmega buttons.
That's my contribution, and Mike has one
And the
too.
walrus.
But yeah, zips are great. I might have a spare for Kate if she's watching. It's not pretty, but it does work. But
No, that's
I
my
find
side quest drive
Windows-
downstairs.
I find the windows to the zip drives just like to fall in, and they're just.
And
Yeah, they
that's
do.
something I never knew existed at the time using zip, because I used to, my backpack for high school, it was 2 books and 50 zips. I used to rip all their software, and not proud of it. Don't do this at home and yada yada, but Photoshop everything. Fit on a zip, just take it. But I didn't know that there was a battery backup for zip drives, and I had one. I sent it to Steve, and
Yep.
I could have used that back in the day. That was
That
awesome.
I didn't know that existed either. It's this little
Me
thing
neither.
about it the size of a deck of cards, and it's a little battery pack, and it's dead. But I maybe I could replace the battery in it. That would make for a fun video.
I
But
want to see that thing in
would be
action.
cool.
Yeah.
I mean that's essentially you could, because the idea was before they had the USB powered ones, with even if you had a PowerBook that didn't have a zip drive attachment for it, you could have an external zip drive, but you had to power the darn thing. So I mean that's kind of bulky to take with you, but I guess better than
Yeah.
nothing.
Yeah, no, that's a cute idea.
So anything else besides?
Well,
Obviously, Jay was mentioning stuffing stuff to keep the resource
Yeah.
fork. There we sort of talked about that on previous streams, but
Mm-hmm.
yeah, but you can bin hex them as well. There are utilities for that. A bin hex will
Stuff it up to
basically
that.
just it'll convert the whole thing into a different format, retain the resource fork and all that sort of stuff. Doesn't compress it though, so bin hex files can often end up being a bit puffy. But
Now it's
Puffy.
What's
not a
going
lost
on
cause
behind
if you
your?
have.
What's going on behind you there,
What?
Bruce?
the wind is blowing the curse.
I thought he had a ghost.
The curse has moved to Australia.
It's not a total. It's not a total lost cause if you have files that have lost their resource forks, because there is an OS 9 program called file type, and if you can look up the resource codes, especially if you have files of the same type that you can look at with like ResEdit or something like that. If you can get the creator codes and the file type codes, you plug those into this program file type, and you can save a template for that type of file, and then all you do is drag and drop, and it will convert them back. It's really easy. I have
that's
an
good,
entire archive of files from the mid to late 90s that got somehow they were copied to basically to an OS 10 environment, lost all of that stuff except for the files that already had like a file extension on it. Back in OS 9 days, nobody ever saved a file extension because it just showed up. You see the icon, you know what it is.
Yeah.
So
Until you got that dreaded white with blue PC letters on it. Like,
yeah.
There is one exception to that file type thing, and that is applications. A lot of the time, applications would store parts of the application in the resource
Right.
fork. They'd save
Right.
icons and things like that, and menus and all those sorts of things. That
Yeah.
were always fun to tamper with ResEdit. So definitely, if you're talking about images or documents and stuff like that, no problem. But if you have lost the resource fork of an application, chances are it's not all, but some of them aren't going to work anymore.
Just go to
You need
Macintosh Guard. It's probably there.
yeah, they
Yeah.
probably have it.
yeah, I haven't tried that. There's a few drives or disks I've recovered data from that the resource fork is just gone. Maybe it got corrupted or whatever. So I'd be interested to play around with that.
File type. It's on the guard.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Nice. All right. Any other suggestions for transferring data to and from your vintage Macs?
Toast.
Well, I use
Well,
my
you
floppy
talk-
emu for that.
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean,
There you go.
Yeah.
Use a floppy email.
Yeah,
Local
so
Talk
I
Bridge.
have probably the worst method of getting files off of my very old Macs. I plug in the floppy emu, and I copy the files over, or usually I'm running off of the floppy emu. I have my hard drive stored there, and then I'll take the SD card out, put it into my modern computer, open Mini VMac, put the hard drive into Mini VMac, and then export the file from Mini VMac onto my main computer, and then back again. And actually, a lot of times that loses the resource fork, so I have to use that software we were just talking about. Yeah, that's my method for transferring.
That's
files.
definitely a roundabout way.
Sounds like a winner.
Mike was yelling at me once because I made an image of a hard disk on a computer which didn't have an Ethernet jack, and so the only way to copy that over the network was via local talk. So I made an Apple Talk network out of the serial cable, and it took a good half hour to copy 20 megabytes. It was very slow. And Mike is like, "What are you thinking? That's gonna take forever." I'm like, "I'll be fine." And then it's just inching along, and I'm like,
Yeah.
this is not.
I've got a particular path of transferring files here. If I'm not doing it via FTP, which of course I do quite regularly, but if I'm not doing it via FTP, I've got a G5 here, which is running sort of 10.4 and 10.5, and I copy files from my modern Mac across onto the G5, and then I can take the SD card out of my SCSI to SD, put it into a card reader, and it will allow me to read and write to the old Apple file system formatting. And so I can transfer files quite quickly using that process. I mean, it does sound a little bit convoluted, but it's actually quite quick and easy to do. So
Yeah, that's why I keep a Mac Mini around. Mac Mini G4 acts as my basically bridge machine. Everything can connect to it. It's running Tiger, and always works.
Yep, that's why I have the mini stack. It has one running Tiger and one running Leopard, so I'm set.
Yeah. That's the easiest way is to have a bridge machine because
yeah,
I haven't used one in a while, but before I was using like Jay a Mac Mini G4 to bridge from the Quadra 950 to I think at the time I was running Snow Leopard, which of course was it Snow Leopard that dropped Apple Talk, I think it was, or was it Lion?
It might have been Lion.
One of those two. I was running one of those two, and so you couldn't communicate directly with one to the other with Apple Talk. So the G4 was the bridge between.
We
That's
got
the easiest,
Todd in the
fastest
chat.
way.
He says, my method, USB flash drive on modern computer to transfer to iBook, transfer to 1.4 floppy, transfer to 800K on the LC. That's a lot of stuff.
Wow. Perfect. I mean, I
Takes
also,
4 hours.
Scott needs a floppy emu.
Yeah.
Are those things expensive? I don't know what it is.
Yeah, they're about
Yeah.
$120.
Yep, they are.
No.
Well worth the time saved.
Yeah, I mean,
one other
they're
way,
worth every cent.
if you just have a serial port, I featured this in the iMac G3 video I did. There are serial port local talk, Apple Talk rather, Ethernet adapters, so you can join an Ethernet network from a serial machine. It's slow, but if you need to, you can. And yes, Jay loves my video. Thank you, Jay.
I love it. Out of
Alright.
all the crap you published, that was the
Oh,
best.
that little thing has a screen on it and everything.
Yeah, the floppy emu is a
Yeah.
little.
Yeah, and you can
Great.
you can get it to run one of two ways. You can either get it to run like the original HD20, which of course was a hard drive that ran through the floppy port. So that was for the original, the old 128K and 512K, so that you can have a 20 megabyte hard drive. So it will emulate that. And interestingly enough, not the ROMs don't all support that for some of the later Macs, even though they might have had a floppy port. So like I said, an SE30 doesn't support that hard drive mode unless you get updated ROMs for it. But what it also allows you to do is just like floppy disk images. So you can have your entire library of floppy disks on an SD card there, and then when you start up the computer, you can just select which floppy disk you want it to select. You press that button, and then it just starts. It behaves just like you've put a floppy disk into the drive. Fantastic little thing.
Awesome. Yeah,
That is really cool.
That is definitely a way to go because making 800K disk images requires disks rather requires a Mac with an actual super drive floppy disk drive. So.
Yeah.
All right, so we don't have too much for our game around here, so we're going to skip it this time, but we want submissions. You guys go on the Discord chat there, or when we do the show, you want to send them in. It's not too late to do that when we're running the show, but we're going to skip it this time. We only had one. But if you have any game round things, those are always fun too.
I don't
Let's
know
save
what
that one
the
for next
the
week.
question was, but I'll just say quack. For the hell of it.
Yep.
It was probably something retro, so quack.
No, actually,
Eep, there you go.
it wasn't. So, Jay, you probably would have said eat
eep. Okay, eep it is.
because it's not
All right.
nothing retro.
Rudy, do you want to? Not Rudy. Greg, do you want to do the what were they smoking?
No, we're gonna skip that and save it for next week.
All right, cool. We'll do that. All right. So you want to close us out then, my
No,
friend?
I actually gave that job for you to do, and you said yeah.
Oh, I must have been I don't. My messages aren't synced on this computer. I'm looking down at my phone like an idiot. So.
You get
All
to
right,
turn
well,
it up, son.
Well, do the Discord part though.
All right, I'll attempt to fumble my way through this, and GT will just sit there and laugh. So, thank you everybody so far for giving us likes. If you haven't liked the video, please do so. And if you are new to the channel, please consider subscribing to us because we are so close to our 1,000 subscriber mark there. We do have a giveaway to win some awesome things, including a MacBook and an iPod Mini. Among other things. And to get the details on that, you have to go back to our archive there, watch episode number 69, and go just watch that video. You have to watch most of the stream there. You have to find what that magic word is. There's a link in that chat there. You have to go and submit that as a comment. And that's gonna cut off when we reach 1,000, or we're gonna let a few.
GT said he wanted to keep it going.
Well, let's say we hit it tomorrow or the next day.
Let's do the end.
No. If we hit it tomorrow or the next day, then we will go ahead and do the drawing next show. But if it's like real close to the show day, I would say we'll go to the next week after that.
Alrighty.
Just to give people time to go watch that episode.
All right. Before I continue to wrap it up, any shameless self-promotions for us, including our guests?
Yes, actually, I have one. I did put out a new video lately on Mac Attack. And as Jay said, I just basically, it's nothing, it's not me talking or anything like that. It's about, I think it's like 7 minutes long, so it's a real short one.
You didn't say a single word.
I didn't say a word, yeah. It was booting up 7 different operating systems on one Mac, iMac. And they're all basically made for that particular machine. They actually boot natively on it. No DOS Dude Patcher or anything like that. I can run a few more on it if I wanted to with DOS Dude Patcher, but I wanted to do everything that was native for that computer. And there were 7 operating systems it was able to run. So I thought that was pretty neat. And it's all on the same hard drive too, believe it or not.
That poor hard drive.
It's a 1 terabyte hard drive. I just split it up into 7 partitions.
All right, well, Sean, do you have anything coming out?
Yeah, my shameless self-promotion is Saturday. I have the video coming out with the Return of the Cursed Mac, which is hopefully uncursed now because Steve recapped it for me.
I think
so very excited about that. I had a lot of fun putting the computer back together. I have some cool plans for it, which I kind of show off some of my ideas in that video. So that'll be
Blu-ray player.
Saturday. Blu-ray player, yeah.
Laserdisc. Yeah.
Nice,
Now,
nice.
Sean, if I am, I'm known to be a fairly impatient person. If I want to see your video right now, where do I go to do that?
Yeah. So I do release my videos early on Patreon. So I have patreon.com/actionretro, and if you go there, you can pledge, and have my video. Actually, that video is out right now for Patreon.
Ooh. Excellent.
Actually, what I am showing here is this is what I'm giving away. So
don't drop it.
And this is what I'm giving away, which isn't showing up. There
that's because you have that.
You know what? Since we're so close,
I
might. I think I might have something to add.
A neck serve.
Ooh, a blue and white. You're giving away a blue and white.
I will donate to the cause a 2010 11-inch MacBook Air.
I was going to ask you.
That's how much I hate the damn things. I give them away.
An old Samsung phone.
So there you go, guys. Another addition to it. So there's 2 laptops now: a 2008 MacBook, a 2010 MacBook Air, okay, and a iPod Mini, and a $50 Steam card. So
Cool.
And Bruce is covering all the shipping.
Thank you, Bruce.
Yes, if the winner happens to be Australian, I'll find something to give you.
So, anybody else shameless self promotions? Mike, Rudy, Dana, Rocky.
I'm not doing anything Mac related, so I'm not going to mention it.
Well, Mike always has cool stuff on his channel, so check it out.
Of course, I was coming back, but I kind of broke my phone, and that's why I usually record with. So
Well, now's your chance to get a professional camera.
Yes.
Well, I have a professional camera. I just never learned how to use it.
Well,
That's
he
chance to
actually
learn
has
how
to
to
have a
use it.
tripod
I
too.
should learn how to
He has a
use
couple
it.
of tripods he doesn't know how to use either. So
I use tripods all the time. Patrick.
when?
Oh boy.
Almost every
Dana,
video.
anything from you?
So last week, Jay and I started shooting a video together where we are attempting to rebuild a. I don't know. Did we talk about this last week, Jay? On the
I don't
know.
know.
I was at his
I was
house.
too
You
busy
guys
giggling
noticed
and
we
eating
were having a
cookies.
particularly good time at Jay's house last week. But we are trying to rebuild a G5 water cooling, a liquid cooling system.
Nice.
So we got it taken apart. We got it flushed out, which was a project in and of itself.
Yeah.
But we had a lot of fun, learning how that whole thing goes and how it was all put together.
My basement is covered in Dex Cool.
Yeah,
Why did you rebuild
That's all right.
Index?
Sorry to hear that.
that's all right because it's not my basement. So,
Yeah.
but we got about half of it shot, and come to find out that the O-rings that I ordered, they sent me the wrong size, or they've changed the specs on the part number or something. So I need to research that and try to find the correct size. And then other than that, it's a matter of putting it back together, which I'll probably just do myself. So
Yep.
Okay.
I
cool.
miss out on the fun part. See how it is.
Yeah, I don't think you're too.
I have I have a giveaway I'll be announcing the details of on my YouTube channel soon because it's the 3rd year anniversary of my channel. I'm about to hit 3,000 subscribers or something like that. So thank you.
is that a significant number then, as far as what you're giving away?
I'm giving away 3 things and they are all the same.
Uh-huh.
I will detail
3
them.
bunnies.
Lime
Buttons,
No.
T-shirts.
No, they are cool things. I'll give all the details in a stream, but I'll be doing that. And then tomorrow I'm releasing a video about the Atari 800. I have recapped. So there was a preview on my Patreon there. I just exported the final version that'll has with some Final Cut Pro rendering bugs. Thank you, Eagle-eyed Mike, for pointing that out. And I'll be getting that soon.
Do it right the first time.
That reminds me of one other thing.
Yes.
I have my 10th anniversary giveaway coming up too.
Everyone's
I forgot about that.
Yeah.
It's giveaways,
I
giveaways,
retract
giveaways.
Everybody's doing it. It's not special.
Also, since we're wrapping it up, I just want to say we love you, Rocky.
Yep.
It's been a great time.
Thank you for your contribution. Definitely.
Yep.
And all the best with future things.
Next Mac Yak, you see he's going to be like strapped to the chair and blinking.
Steve's gonna be in the background with the duct tape.
Tell
Oh,
them
by the
how
way,
much you like Quadra.
I'll be recapping a 2CX tomorrow. So,
Oh boy.
Yep.
All right.
so
Well,
anyway.
like
I'll
this
probably
video.
give it away.
Don't forget to check us out on Discord. I will put the link
Jay's
in the
already
chat
done
there.
that for you.
Action. Oh, thank you. Did you put in Sean's Discord as well? Yep.
No,
There you go.
I left this.
So Sean has an awesome Discord channel too. Check that out.
Thank you.
And we will miss you, Rocky. Don't be a stranger. I know you won't. But that's it for
You
today's
can't
show.
get me that easy.
Hey, if we
Thank
get
everybody
those
for
1,000
hanging out.
subs this week, then maybe he can come back next week.
Exactly. There
Yeah.
you go.
Exactly.
And yeah, that's been it. Thank you, Sean, for joining us. That's
Thanks
always
for
a
having
pleasure.
me.
Yeah, that was fun, dude.
Absolutely.
All right.
All right,
Is that enough? Is that good enough closing
that's
out,
good.
GT?
Yeah. So let's just say bye, everybody.
See you next week.